Chapter 648. Old Man Pai and the other two looked at Xiao Bao's straightforward and slightly long-winded words. If it wasn't for the fact that it was Zhang Xiaobao's handwriting, they would have thought that it was written by someone else. After all, this prediction was too accurate. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were in Tubo, and there hadn't been any news from them for a long time. This was all written beforehand. Is it true that the price reduction this time is only for a short period of time? Are the Tubo people really out of money? Old Man Chang was very confused about economic matters. After reading the letter, he wanted someone to confirm it. Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao also weren't sure if this was the case. They could only look at Zhang Zhong, wanting to see if Zhang Zhong would follow what Xiao Bao had written in the letter. In their opinion, this was a big matter. Zhang Zhong should go and ask the expert behind him. Zhang Zhong had already read the letter several times. It wasn't that he couldn't remember the contents of the letter, but that he wanted to see his son's handwriting. He had already memorized all the plans. Now that he heard the news of the grain price reduction, he immediately ordered people to spread the news. Thus, starting from Izhou, the grain price reduction was acknowledged by the Zhang family. The Zhang family had spent a large amount of money to transport grain from other places. Thus, the grain price had dropped. 3 days later, this news spread to other places in Jiannan Circuit as if it had grown wings. Some people actually sent fast riders to other places to spread the news. It was unknown whether it was because of some special purpose or because they were willing to be good people. Boss Qi was preparing to release grain for 2 more days to create a rush to buy grain. When the time came, he would raise the price and give people the impression that it wasn't a problem of the grain price, but that Jiannan Circuit really didn't have any grain. This would cause the people to temporarily stop their usual habit of buying grain bit by bit and turn it into an explosive stockpile of grain. In the end, before he could completely release the news on his side, the news of the Zhang family releasing grain came from Izhou. When he first heard this news, Boss Qi was really shocked, thinking that the Zhang family was really releasing grain. But after thinking about it, he realized that something was wrong. Zhang Zhong had opened the Chongping warehouse in Izhou. There seemed to be a lot of grain, but when it was spread to the entire western region of Jiannan Circuit, it wouldn't be of much use. It could only be used for emergencies. The other prefectures also had Chongping warehouses, but unless it was a disaster, they did not dare to open the warehouses as Zhang Zhong did. Only when there was an emergency would they take the risk of sending memorials to the capital requesting to open the warehouses while opening a small amount of grain to release. Another possibility was that the Zhang family had transported grain from other places. This was even more impossible. The Zhang family ships would inevitably pass through Izhou, and he had his own people there. If there really were a large ship transporting grain, someone would have already warned him. I understand. Zhang Zhong wants to use my hand to make a good reputation for himself. So that's how it is. I was wondering when the Zhang family would have grain. Humph. What a good idea. After thinking about it, Boss Qi finally understood the reason. He felt that Zhang Zhong was using his hand to gain benefits. After hearing the news, the other merchants gathered to discuss the matter with Boss Qi. When they heard Boss Qi's words, they revealed a look of realization. Boss Qi, should we stop releasing grain? Otherwise, all the good reputation will fall on Zhang Zhong's head. At this time, one of the merchants opened his mouth and asked. The other merchants were also waiting for new orders. They now thoroughly knew what kind of person Master Qi was. Each of them was filled with regret, but there was nothing they could do. They had bet their own family's wealth on this. If they didn't succeed, they would lose everything. Without money, they wouldn't be able to find servants at home. They wouldn't be able to raise their children, wives, and concubines. Most importantly, those who were very respectful to them in the past would look down on them. This kind of thing couldn't happen. Even if they were helping Tubo to deal with Great Tang, as long as they weren't caught, once they succeeded, they could bring their family to hide or give some money to settle the matter. Of course, this was what most of the merchants thought. There was a small group of people who were unwilling to deal with their own country. They wanted to stop now, but it was too late. Their families were already under the control of others. Even they were restricted and weren't allowed to leave too far away. Zhong Gang was one of the small group of merchants. He wanted to spread the news as soon as possible so that the people of his country could be prepared. Even if he would lose a lot because of this, at least he wouldn't have to live in regret for the rest of his life. While the others gathered around to discuss how to deal with Zhang Zhong, he also said to a brother who had played with him since childhood, "Little Chong, help me think. How can we let the officials here know about this news? You usually have many ideas. Even when we make money together, we listen to you." The person who was called Little Chong looked at the merchants in front of him and then glanced around. He also replied in a small voice, "The gang, don't be anxious. Based on my feeling, there's no need for us now." Zhang Zhong has already made his move. It seems like he hasn't done much yet. He only opened Chongping warehouse and wanted to buy grain and wine at a high price. But in my opinion, this is all fake. We've already found out about Zhang Zhong. What kind of person is he? He's a good person who brings good fortune to the people of Sanshui County. Back then, when he was just a very small official, he was able to let the people of Sanshui County live a good life. The few places he went in the future were even more so. His family does business, big business. Who doesn't know what kind of place between the clouds and the water is? Who doesn't know that the food of Savant's restaurant in the capital has always been trending? The gang, tell me, this kind of person, how could he not know how much harm deliberately raising the price of grain would cause to the people? How could he not know that someone was behind this? Not to mention the lives of the people. Even if he was thinking about his own reputation, he would still want to deal with the people of Tubo. His family's child is still fighting in Tubo. Don't believe the news that came later, saying that Cuckoo has an expert guiding her. Really? Could it be that Zhang Zhong has already realized that something is wrong? His family's child is really the person leading the war? How is that possible? He's so small. Zhong Gang had always listened to Xiao Chong since he was young. He was very impressed with Xiao Chong's intelligence, but today he had doubts. After all, this matter was really too hard to understand. Xiao Chong smiled mysteriously and pointed at the merchants in front of him. He said to Zhong Gang, "Since we were young, when have I ever lied to you? Others don't know, but I do." Seeing that the war is about to end, Cuckoo is afraid that her reputation will be too great, so she released the news. If you had a good treasure, after using it, would you still take it out and continue to show it off? The news that the imperial court gave the Zhang family and Wang family titles to be officials can't be fake, right? Do you think that the imperial court has so many officials that there's no place for them to be given, just for the Zhang family and Wang family to play with? If Cuckoo didn't perform meritorious deeds, would the imperial court give so many officials at once? Think about it. The men of the two families are all official officials, and the women are all noble ladies. If the two families are linked together, how big of a force would that be? Xiao Chong spoke very confidently. Normally, he liked to think about all kinds of things and connect all the dots together. That was why he and Zhong Gang were able to start from scratch and amass a considerable amount of wealth before the age of 30. He was able to connect the dots that normal people didn't want to think too much about. The more Zhong Gang listened, the more he felt that this was the case. After hearing Xiao Chong's words, he finally relaxed. However, just as he was feeling more comfortable, he heard the merchants in front of him laughing meaningfully. His heart was in his throat again. He asked Xiao Chong, I still don't feel confident. The Tubo people have already collected a lot of grain and even sent a lot of powerful people to hold down the fort. On the surface, I know that the Qi guy is taking the lead. Things have already come to this point, but Zhang Zhong still hasn't made any big moves. Will it be too late? Xiao Chong looked at Zhong Gang's anxious eyes and sighed helplessly. He then comforted him. Don't think too much. How do you know Zhang Zhong hasn't made any big moves? Haven't you played the game of Monopoly? I have. You always let me play, but I'm too stupid and can only play at the simplest level. Unlike you, you've already taken the top-level exam twice. Although you haven't passed yet, you'll pass soon. You probably just need to take the exam again. What does this have to do with games? When Zhonggang heard Xiao Chong mention the game of Monopoly, he thought of his own stupidity and Xiao Chong's cleverness. It wasn't that he didn't want to play a higher-level game, but that he couldn't pass the exam. In the end, it was no longer a game. The rules changed again and again. The most amazing thing wasn't the players, but the people who made the rules. It was said that there were still many rules that hadn't been released yet. However, the current situation didn't seem to have anything to do with the game of Monopoly. To have a brother like you, I'm lucky. I don't have to worry about being stabbed in the back. Someone like me can't even get into the top-level exam. Do you know what the top-level exam is? It's not a game. There are a lot of things involved in it. Let me put it this way. Anyone who can enter the top-level game is no ordinary person in real life. The top 10 of the top-level game have another kind of battle called the economic battle. It's only open to people from Great Tang, and outsiders aren't allowed to participate. That kind of game contains a lot of things, and it's very complicated. Who came up with the Monopoly game? It's the Zhang family. The rules are all set by them, and they can change at any time. The number one is Young Master Song from Between the Clouds and the Water in Sanshue County. Young Master Song is a member of the Zhang family. A few days ago, I heard that someone ranked number 10 appeared here. Can you guess who it is? Xiao Chong explained and then asked another question. Who is it? Number 10. Isn't it someone with the surname Bai? It's said that he's very powerful. No one has ever seen his real face, and even if they did, they would keep it a secret. Do you know who he is? Zhonggang asked curiously. There were people who knew who the other people were, but the person ranked number 10 was very mysterious and impossible to guess. I know, I found out by chance. It's in Yingzhou. A few days ago, a lot of merchants went there to invest, and since they had nothing to do, they started playing. In the end, they met someone, a girl who wasn't even 15 years old. One of the merchants had entered the top-level game rankings, ranked in the top 100 of Great Tang. In the end, all four of them played together. At the beginning, he wanted to defeat the other three, but as he played, he realized that something was wrong. That girl was really too powerful. In the end, he had no choice but to team up with two other people who were also very powerful, about the same level as me, to deal with that girl. This game lasted for a full 3 days, and all three families lost. At the beginning, they didn't bring their own items. They had the same capital and the same map, but in the end, they were killed by that girl until they could only parry and didn't have the strength to fight back. That girl is Bai Shu's granddaughter, Bai Xin. Xiao Chong revealed a very important piece of information. After saying this, he looked at Zhonggang with shining eyes. Zhonggang looked at Xiao Chong in confusion and asked, "Then what does this have to do with the person ranked number 10? Are you trying to anger me to death?" Xiao Chong pointed at Zhonggang, speechless. Zhonggang finally reacted. His eyes widened, and he said in shock, "Xiao Chong, you're saying that Bai Xin is that person ranked number 10? The person ranked number 10 is actually a girl? As a girl, and also Sir Bai's granddaughter. No wonder she's so mysterious. She's really not inferior to a man." Yes, you're right. If she wasn't so powerful, how could she defeat a team of two people who had also entered the top-level game? The people on the top-level game rankings really live up to their reputation. In that case, with her in charge, everything will be arranged well? She's not the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. After she beat the three of them, she said something. She said that she was nothing, and that even the number one Young Master Song was nothing. They were still playing, and that the truly powerful person wasn't even on the leaderboard. That person, even if the top 10 people combined, with the entire world as a whole, they still wouldn't have the courage to face him. He's already mastered the art of economy to perfection. Xiao Chong said with a face full of yearning. He really hoped that one day he could enter a top-level game and meet the heroes of the world. It would be best if he could first play a game with Bai Xin and see what kind of ability the person ranked number 10 had. Zhonggang didn't think too much about it. He couldn't enter the game anyway, so he wouldn't have a chance to play with that person. Once the person reached a certain level, he would no longer be an opponent, but an existence to look up to. After hearing Xiao Chang's words, he thought for a moment and said, "Xiao Chong, are you saying that the more powerful person is in the Zhang family? And this time he will make a move? Who is he? How would I know? What I want to say is that you don't have to worry. Tubo won't be able to cause much trouble this time. Just follow them and watch. Maybe you can learn something from this commercial war. All right, everyone is leaving, so let's go too. For now, let's listen to Boss Chi." Xiao Chong finally comforted Zhonggang. Seeing that the people in front of him were almost done with their discussion, he walked over and took the mission he was going to accept. After reading the content on the paper, Wei Wei smiled and left with Zhonggang, who had also accepted the mission. Seeing the merchants leave, Boss Chi sat on the futon and felt that something was wrong. He muttered to himself, "Could it be that some of the merchants are unstable? That doesn't seem to be the case. I knew that there would be people who wanted to quit, but they couldn't. There was no chance. They and their families were all being watched, so it was impossible for them to report anything. Maybe the Zhang family really sent food over? That can't be right. If they really sent food over, they would have taken it out and released it in large quantities. They don't have enough money to continue buying. Men, write a letter to the higher-ups and ask them what they should do next." Boss Chi, who couldn't figure it out, didn't want to waste any more time. He left the matter to the higher-ups and began writing the letter. 3 days later, most of the western provinces of Jiannan province saw the price of food rise again, even higher than before. The news that spread was that there was no more food, and no one knew where the food had been shipped to. The commoners who were eating Chang Ping Tsang's food, as expected by Boss Chi and the people behind him, began to buy irrationally, changing their previous habit of eating little by little and buying little by little. Only the price of salt and oil didn't fluctuate too much. They were still firmly controlled at their original bases. When the price was high, it wouldn't be much higher, and when the price was low, it wouldn't be much lower. This made Boss Chi and the people behind him feel helpless. They wanted to pry the price of these two goods, especially the price of salt, but they were firmly suppressed. They tried a few times, but every time, there seemed to be someone giving them a strong counterattack. The warning was very obvious, and there wasn't the slightest bit of concession. They threw in 10,000 strings, but it was like a drop of water thrown into the ocean, not causing the slightest ripple. It was precisely because of this that the people behind Boss Chi faintly felt that something was wrong. He had seen the methods of the other party during the salt price fight. Steady, accurate, and ruthless, and he couldn't find any loopholes. He really couldn't figure out who was behind this. After all, he was someone who had been lying in ambush in Great Tang. He had an identity that others didn't know about. He was also a tycoon who had transcended the game, and he was ranked 11th. He didn't enter the top 10, but he reckoned that this was the case. Otherwise, he would have a chance to enter the top 10. He felt that even if he were to fight with that person surnamed Song, he would have a 60% chance of winning. But when faced with the salt and oil price fight, he suddenly felt as though he was facing a mountain and an ocean. Who was it? Who was it? Who was the mastermind behind the scenes to fix the price of the two goods so firmly? Thus, he became anxious. He wanted to end this economic war with Jiannan Circuit as soon as possible so that he could reinforce his country. He couldn't delay any longer. If that person were to make a move on the grain price and livestock, he didn't have the confidence to win. The price of grain in Jiannan Circuit quickly rose, and it continued to rise. The commoners rushed to buy it, and among those who had grain, a small portion of them still kept it for Zhang Zhong. Zhang Xiaobao was prepared to give them more benefits after this matter was settled, and half of them sold their grain to the merchants led by Boss Chi. As for the remaining portion, they took out their grain and sold it themselves. The entire western region of Jiannan Circuit was in a precarious situation, and there were already officials who had written memorials and sent them to the capital, asking if the capital would allow Chang Pingtsang to be used. The leading official in the capital, Li Longji, wasn't anxious at all. According to Zhang Juling's words, with the Zhang family overseeing the situation, If they still needed to use Chongpingsang, then they would be underestimating the great Tang too much. Let the Tubo people play. And this was a good opportunity to let them experience what an economic war was. As a result, many letters were sent back from the capital to the Jiannan circuit, telling the officials not to worry about it. During the purchase and sale of large quantities of grain, they would collect the necessary taxes and provide the necessary tools. However, a portion of the taxes collected would be handed over to Zhang when the time came. When the officials saw the situation in the court, they weren't anxious anymore. Although they still had to pay Zhang a portion of the taxes collected, it wasn't a big deal. After all, the price of grain was high, and so was the tax. It wouldn't be a loss to give the higher portion to Zhang. Amidst the high price of grain, the Zhang family made a move and began to sell tricycles. The cost of making a tricycle wasn't low, and many local craftsmen were hired to work on it. The price of a single tricycle was enough to buy 2 horses. The Zhang family directly sent these tricycles to the temporarily established car shops in various places and rented them to people who needed to use them. They were free of charge for maintenance, as long as each person paid 10 copper coins a day. If the business wasn't good, they were allowed to delay the payment for a few days. The tricycles were all handmade, and they used bearings and chains. Although it was difficult to travel on other roads, it would be easier to travel on new roads in the future. 10 copper coins a day might seem like a lot, but the tricycles didn't need to be fed fodder. Currently, grass was scarce, and it wasn't a good time to feed animals. Not to mention, if any animal became thin, they would have to feed it with beans or even eggs. More importantly, the 10 copper coins a day wasn't paid for nothing. After paying a certain amount, which was the cost of building the tricycle would belong to the individual, and they wouldn't need to pay for it in the future. The common people didn't know about the internal war and thought it was very normal. They all knew that wherever Zhang was an official, he would create new things for the common people to use. They were all very useful things. Moreover, the Zhang family didn't gain much from this. The Zhang family was a good official and a good family. Therefore, many people who originally wanted to spend a lot of money to buy animals didn't by this time. They went to the car shop to get a tricycle, wrote a receipt, and took it out to work. The seemingly insignificant tricycles made the person behind the Chi family dumbfounded. He had just raised the price of the animals and was preparing to sell them bit by bit to make more money. He didn't expect that after he controlled the price of grain, he couldn't sell the animals he bought. It was impossible to sell the animals he bought at a high price at a higher price. Not to mention a higher price. No one was willing to buy the animals at the normal price. All the animals were in his hands, and there was no money to turn over. Although the price of grain was high, he couldn't sell a large amount of grain now. He had just received an order. Because Zhang had robbed a lot of grain, he had to transport a portion of the grain back to Tufan to make up for the losses. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive this year's winter. Boss Chi received a new order. He was to release a portion of the grain appropriately so that he could withdraw some money, the livestock that he had taken in required fodder to feed. He was also to help think of a way to see if he could sell the livestock. The Chi family gathered all the merchants and asked them to sell the grain appropriately at a high price. In the end, just as the merchants made a move, the Zhang family also made a move. Originally, there was only information about the grain that was shipped from other places, but there was no grain. This time, there was something. The grain that was collected from other places had been parked outside Yizhou by ship. They didn't enter Yizhou at all. Now, they could enter. Actually, this batch of grain wasn't a lot, but it was used at the right time. Zhang released the news that the price of grain was still the same as before. If anyone wanted to buy, they could sell as much as they could. After this batch came, there would be a few more batches coming back. The Zhang family had a lot of ships. Actually, there was only one batch. When the news was released, the commoners didn't know about it. The commoners who rushed to buy the grain a few days ago regretted it and were unwilling to buy more. The Chi family and the other merchants realized that they couldn't sell the grain. They could sell it, but they had to lower the price again and again. If this blow made them feel that something was wrong, then after Zhang Zhong took some money and bought all the grain from the commoners who were willing to leave the grain for him and sold it at a lower price, the Chi family and the others couldn't buy any more. They kept the grain that was at a high price and couldn't sell it, so they had to lower the price. However much the price was lowered, they had to pay for it. After a few rounds, it was already the beginning of winter. The merchants who cooperated with the Chi family were dumbfounded. They had a lot of grain stored in their houses and took out all their property. The Chi family couldn't give them the benefits that they were supposed to, like what they said at the beginning. Zhong Gang's grain was also suppressed, but he wasn't afraid at all. In fact, he was very willing. After all, he was from Great Tang. When he saw that the Tubo people didn't get any benefits, he was very happy. When he pulled Little Worm to drink, he said to Little Worm, "Little Worm, you're so smart. It's really like what you said. The Zhang family made a move. Originally, we couldn't see anything when they didn't make a move. Now that they've made a move, they immediately made the Tubo people suffer a big loss. I heard that they have a lot of livestock that they can't sell. What do you think they'll do next?" Zhong Gang felt that he had never been in such a good mood before. He drank a few bowls of wine, and in a daze, his body relaxed. Little Worm also drank a big bowl of wine. He burped and said, "What am I? I just saw that Zhang Zhong would make a move, but I definitely didn't expect that they would make a move like this. When they didn't make a move, they couldn't see clearly, but when they made a move, they beat the Tubo people until they couldn't turn the situation around. However, this isn't Zhang Zhong's last resort. There's one thing that's very important when doing business, and that is that they won't make a huge loss. This time, the grain that his family sold might not even be able to cover the cost of the transportation. They also bought the grain from the commoners' houses. This is using their own losses to suppress the price of the grain. In the future, they'll probably earn back the money they lost. At the very least, it'll be equal. I'm really looking forward to what other methods Zhang Zhong has." Little Worm saw through the essence of the matter. To be precise, he saw through the Zhang family's style of doing things. However, he could only guess and couldn't figure out how it would work. The Zhang family's tricycle had shocked him. He thought that there must be something even more shocking to come. Zhong Gang now trusted Little Worm more and more. However, when he thought about how he had also bet on the grain and the cooperation with the Tubo people, he asked worriedly, "Then what about our grain? According to the current price, as long as we sell it, we'll be making a loss. Also, will the imperial court hold us responsible after this matter is over?" Don't worry. A few days ago, while the Tubo people were flustered, I already wrote a letter to Zhang Zhong. The loss of the grain is inevitable, but the responsibility won't be much. After all, back then, we didn't know that the people we were cooperating with were the Tubo people. Merchants pursue profit, and if we don't pursue it well, we can only bear the loss ourselves. Little Worm wasn't worried about being caught and beheaded. He just felt that the loss this time was too great. After selling the grain in his hands, it would take at least several years for him to earn it back. This kind of loss couldn't be said to be small. If he hadn't lost it, he could have used the original money to make a bigger deal. However, he didn't have the opportunity now. If he delayed for several years, he might miss out on many opportunities to make a fortune. Not long after, Zhang Zhong took out a new method and began to purchase large quantities of livestock. He set the price to be very low. At the same time, he also began to buy grain at an even lower price, which was actually much lower than the current price of the grain. At the same time, he marked out a piece of land on a mountain in Wing Prefecture to be used to grow special medicinal herbs. The merchants seeking cooperation in Jiannan Province would invest in this land together. The price of this land wasn't low. Zhang Zhong didn't use administrative means to obtain it himself, but rather wanted to buy it together with other merchants. Although it was said that many new medicines might be developed in the future, in reality, they hadn't been developed yet. They were just using this as a means of publicity. Of course, they would study it in the future. The medicinal herbs here were indeed good, but the risks would also be borne by the merchants. Zhang Zhong came out with a special plan, which was how to research the medicine and how to grow it. The initial income would be from selling ordinary medicinal herbs. Later on, when the research was developed, there would be more money to be earned. It would be a lie if the merchants said that they weren't tempted. The merchants who were cooperating with Zhang Zhong took out a portion of their money for him to use. The merchants who weren't cooperating with him were also anxious, especially the merchants who were buying grain. They really wanted to make up for their losses by cooperating with Zhang Zhong. After all, the business of the Zhang family didn't seem to be losing money. It would be very good to follow the Zhang family, but they didn't have money, so they could only buy grain at a high price. Each and every one of them was pondering whether they should sell the grain at the price Zhang Zhong offered and use it to invest. Even if they only sold a portion, they would lose a portion. While they were still hesitating, Zhang Zhong once again released news that he would build beautiful houses on the newly built road and sell them to others at a very low price. He would also set up a jewelry store, and soon a large number of pearls would be shipped from the seaside. When other people buy jewelry, the price wouldn't be as high as it was now. The person behind the Qi family became even more anxious. He had food and livestock in his hands. The method he used to come here was to mortgage property and jewelry in batches. Then he used the money from the mortgage to buy a house. Then he used the money from the mortgage to get a lot of money from a bank. Every time, they would send a different person. They would also try their best not to find the same bank. The jewels in the past were no longer valuable, and the original bank was no longer willing to lend money. The bank had suffered a huge loss and needed to collect funds. Zhang Zhong wanted to build better houses, so he used the money from the mortgage to buy the houses at a low price. He couldn't expect to continue to get money from a bank. He could choose not to sell the grain, but the livestock needed to eat. The amount of money they ate every day was a shocking amount. He originally planned to sell the grain bit by bit, earn a portion, and raise another portion. But now it was all over. At this time, if the Tubo people who were in charge of economic warfare still wanted to use the food and livestock in their hands to cause a huge impact to the local economy, then with Zhang Zhong's hand, this person would be completely dumbfounded. Zhang Zhong proposed a method of artificial inoculation for the livestock and provided the corresponding personnel. They were the veterinarians in the hospital who studied the animals. Most people now let the livestock breed by themselves, and the efficiency was very low. But the Zhang family, especially Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, knew how they made animals pregnant. The simplest method was the giant panda. If the giant panda bred by itself, then it was over. At the same time, there were many aphrodisiacs. To the people here, it was a very normal thing. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan felt that aphrodisiacs were drugs with a certain amount of hormones or could promote the secretion of hormones in animals. If they were given to the female and the male was directly injected into the female's body, the success rate of breeding would be very high. The doctors brought by the Zhang family had already come up with their own theory through dissection and experiments. Although it was not perfect, it was enough to let many livestock give birth to more cubs. The Zhang family's tricycles only affected the transportation industry. If they waited a little longer, or if the Tubo people were willing to use their own grain to feed the livestock and survive this year's winter, the price of livestock would continue to rise in the spring plowing next year. Then, they would still have the strength to fight. Of course, the prerequisite was that the Tubo people were not arrested. This kind of thing was very common. If they couldn't beat you economically, then they would use administrative means to solve it. However, Zhang Xiaobao didn't want to do that. He wanted to crush all of the Tubo people's hopes. He wanted to clearly tell the Tubo people that they couldn't fight with swords and guns. They also couldn't play economic warfare. I don't want to use other means to deal with you. I will let you choose all the areas you want. I will accept all of them. I will beat you until you lose all confidence. Zhang Xiaobao did it. Once the breeding technology was introduced, the livestock would lose its original demand. The people also didn't have to worry. During the spring plowing next year, they would use manpower to plow the land. After a year, there would be a lot of cheaper livestock to use. After all, Zhang Zhong had promised that he would transfer more livestock from other places. At most, they would work hard for a whole spring. They wouldn't have to spend a few times more money to buy livestock. If they really wanted to buy livestock, one was whether they could afford it. Another was that they would rather spend more money and not farm. That way, they wouldn't lose so much money. Zhang Zhong took drastic measures to deal with the Tubo people. He used both real and fake methods to force the Tubo people to the point that they couldn't do anything. Master Qi had already been transferred over. Master Chun, who was in charge of purchasing horses, also went over to discuss a solution. The person in charge had been beaten until he lost all confidence. He finally knew who his opponent was. It was the people from the Zhang family. Moreover, it was the same person who competed with him for the salt price and oil price. In order to ensure that he wouldn't be exposed, the person behind the scenes wore a mask. His voice was hoarse. It was unknown whether he had taken medicine or was pretending. A few people who followed the operation were gathered together. The masked person finally spoke. "You can call me number 1 or Mask. As for who I am, there is no need for you to know. Now let's talk. What should we do?" Master Qi looked at this person who he thought was very powerful but lost. He said, "Our opponent is Zhang Zhong. Should we send people to kill Zhang Zhong directly? It would be good if we could get the explosives that they use to blow up the mountain. As long as we get close to it, we can ignite it and blow up everyone around us." Number 1 turned and looked at Master Qi. "Don't say such things in the future. I don't want to hear it. Do you think Zhang Zhong is so easy to assassinate? How many people do he have to protect him? Don't even mention the explosives. They purposely let us send people to steal them, so that we can expose more people." Master Qi lowered his head. Number 1 was right. His idea couldn't be realized. However, he was a little unwilling to accept it. Perhaps he saw through his thoughts. A person who cooperated with old Master Qin said to him, "Even if we can kill Zhang Zhong, we can't do it. Cuckoo will go crazy. She will gather all the money in her family and desperately prepare an army. When the time comes to attack Tubo, no matter how many people we lose, we won't be able to stop her. Now, she is only following orders. She won't sell her family's business for the final attack. Just wait for her to come back. I think the Tang Dynasty is preparing to hide her. Don't use her for now. Tubo can use this opportunity to develop. When we have more powerful people, we won't have to be afraid of her anymore." Yes. When Master Qi heard someone mention Cuckoo, he felt hatred and helplessness. The current situation didn't allow Tubo to really force Zhang Zhong and Wang family to gamble with their family's business and launch a crazy attack. If she really did it, then even if Tubo won in the end, they would lose the opportunity to develop. They wouldn't be able to catch up with the Tang Dynasty. When the Tang Dynasty sent troops over, they wouldn't have any chance of winning. Old Master Qin was the most worried. He was in charge of the animals that he bought. He had to find someone to look after them and think of a way to get food to feed them. He had to spend money and worry about it. Especially under such circumstances, he had lost weight. He looked at number 1 and said, "What I want to know is, who is our opponent? Is it the top 10 people in the so-called Monopoly game?" He couldn't help but admit that Monopoly was a game, because all the powerful people on the list were equally powerful in real life. When one reached the top, it wasn't a game anymore. It was like a school for economic advancement. According to the popular words of the Tang Dynasty, it was to systematize and rationalize the economic path. Old Master Chen felt that only such a person could defeat number 1. He didn't know that number 1 was also on the list and was close to the top 10. He was hiding his strength. Number 1 looked at old Master Chen. He knew that this old Master Chen didn't believe in his ability. He sneered and said, "I can tell you clearly that my opponent is definitely not someone on the list. So what if he is in the top 10? Even if he, Song Jinggong, the number 1 person on the list, came here and was my opponent, he wouldn't be able to do this. Chapter 649. When number 1 mentioned this matter, he couldn't help but tremble. When he was sent to the Tang Dynasty, he was very smart and very talented in this thing called economics. After he hid in the Tang Dynasty, he did a lot of business and earned a lot of money. Now that he had taken it all out, he was probably going to lose it all. When the Monopoly game was first released, he thought that it was a game for children and didn't take it seriously at all. However, later on, the rules changed and there were various levels. Only then did he come into contact with it with the intention of playing. When he started playing, he realized that things weren't as simple as he thought. That's right, the lowest level of the Monopoly game was really meant for children to play. However, the higher the level, the more different it became. It had already transcended the existence of the game. When it reached the top level, it would be completely different. It had nothing to do with the game at all. All the operations were based on reality. There were all kinds of rules inside. If one wanted to play well at that level, they had to be very powerful in reality. Even so, he wasn't worried. Ever since he entered the rankings, he realized that he had the ability to fight with the people in front of him. He wasn't afraid of anyone, even the person surnamed Song, who was ranked first. Therefore, he once again underestimated this game, especially the person who made the rules. The rules were not comprehensive at once, but gradually improved as the game progressed. In his heart, if he couldn't make all the rules at once, then it wasn't skill. If he had enough time, he would be better than this person. However, in this economic war, he finally understood that his opponent must be the person who made the rules of the game. This was because he saw a lot of things from it. He understood why the rules kept changing and gradually improving. It wasn't that that person didn't want to fix the rules the first time, but as new things came out, the original rules couldn't be used anymore. Rules were perfected with each new thing. That person must have thought of this back then. So leaving a loophole in the rules was not for others to take advantage of. Of course, it was your ability to take advantage of it. The most fundamental reason was to encourage people to discover more new things. This was a kind of broad-mindedness, leaving hope to others, and then telling everyone involved that they were the ones who made the rules. If they wanted to join, they had to understand more of the current affairs, or else they could only play along with others. This kind of system was set up to nurture more outstanding talents. That person seemed to really want someone to surpass him one day and surpass him. He sacrificed his own interests to pave the way for others. Therefore, this person did not enter the list, because he was afraid that others would lose again and again when facing him and lose the confidence to advance. This person would always hide behind the scenes. Only when the rules were being perfected would he quietly come out and take a look around before continuing to retreat. He was someone who truly cared about the country. His breadth of mind was already shocking, but what surprised him even more was his methods. This time, he had lost without resentment. When he manipulated the salt price and oil price, he had already been warned. He was the one who refused to accept it. When he was worried, he still wanted to compete. If he had retreated at that time, he might have been able to make some money, but he wasn't confident. The result was the current situation. The other party had made a move. When he didn't make a move, he was as quiet as a virgin. Once he made a move, he was like a goshawk catching a rabbit. It was a pity that he didn't have the ability to do that. A master. With such a master in the Tang Dynasty, there was no need to rely on economic means to attack in the future. It was useless. He was not at the same level as that person. It was like an adult playing with a child. No wonder he didn't enter the list. If he was on the list, how could others live? Thinking about it, number one forgot about the matter in front of him. He sat there, looking at the door in a daze. The others didn't know how big of a blow number one had suffered. They thought that number one was thinking of a way to defeat the other party. So they didn't dare to disturb him and just waited quietly. It wasn't until the sound of an unknown bird came from outside that number one broke free from the state of fear and found that his clothes were wet at this moment. Mask, have you thought of a good idea? Old Master Chen saw number 1 turn around and asked. The solution is to immediately sell all the food and livestock at a low price to Zhang Zhong. We will take the rest of the money and run away. I will personally ask for punishment for my country. This time, it's not your fault. It's all because the opponent is too strong. Number 1 sighed and said to the others. Everyone was stunned. Run? If we sell it at a low price, we will lose a lot. We will lose at least half of our original capital. This is the loss after we used a special method to transfer more of the risk to the local bank. Otherwise, if it was all our money, we would really lose everything. Can't we think of another way? After all, the food and horses are in our hands. We don't have enough food here, and the same goes for the livestock. A lot of the news that Zhang Zhong released is false. If we persist, maybe he will be afraid. Qi Dongjia looked at number 1 in disbelief. Could it be that number 1 really admitted defeat? If that was the case, they would really have to sell the livestock and grain locally. Otherwise, if they were to transport the grain back, it would be troublesome. They would be easily attacked by the Tang army. After all, they were too big of a target. Number 1 also didn't want to retreat like this. He would think of a way to transport a portion of the grain back. The rest couldn't be left behind. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough for the transport. If they used the livestock to transport the grain, by the time they returned, the livestock would have eaten up all the grain. Their original plan was to raise the price of all the grain and then use the livestock and grain from Tubo to supply the grain. Now, they only earned a portion of the money from the livestock. A portion of the livestock was sold from Tubo at a high price and then collected. It was just that they didn't give out all the money. If they were to take them away, it was impossible to not let others know. They would chase after them to ask for money. Unless... No, this person couldn't be exposed. He was still useful. Reporting number 1, it's not good. The Zhang family has made a new move. They released some kind of technology. It is said that it can be used to avoid plowing and increase the grain output. They want to test it in several places in Jianan Road. They have already found someone to sign a contract. If there is a loss, the Zhang family will compensate. Just as everyone was thinking, a person ran in from outside and anxiously reported to number 1. What? Avoid plowing? How can there be such a thing? Not good, quickly retreat, otherwise it will be too late. If we do that, we will implicate the other spies in Great Tang and get the money out of them first. When number 1 heard this news, he knew that it was bad. Without saying anything, he immediately sent someone to find Zhang Zhong to discuss the matter of selling the grain and livestock. At this time, Tonghua County was in an uproar. The 4-horse merchants were surrounded by other people, and the Yen clan's people were ordered to chase after the money. Otherwise, they would not be let off. Back then, he had willingly taken out the money to buy horses and livestock elsewhere. However, after 2 transactions, it was the old man of the Yen family who proposed to give the goods first and collect the money later. He had even guaranteed it. Now that other people didn't need the livestock anymore, who knew what would happen in the future if he didn't want the money? Thus, the 4-horse merchants were surrounded by people, and Old Man Yen was ordered to lead them and ask for the money. Old Man Yen was also anxious. He did not expect that the matter over there would go awry. The situation that he had originally planned did not occur, and he was caught unprepared. Now, even if he wanted to get the livestock back, it would not do. After all, when they bought them, they were already much more expensive. If they brought them back now, they would not be able to sell them at the original price. At this time, Dong Jiechin came. Number 1 instructed him that no matter what, he could not let the Yen clan be burdened with all the money. This matter had to be resolved first. Even if they had to compensate, they had to ensure the Yen clan's reputation in this area. When old Master Chen came, everyone surrounded him and asked him to take out the money. Fortunately, old Master Chen knew what to do, so he was not flustered at all. He first took out a sum of money and calmed everyone down. He said that he would stay in the area and only leave when all the money was brought back. Moreover, he would stay in the Yen clan and not go anywhere. Only then did everyone feel at ease. If they could not take out the money when the time came, they would tear down the Yen clan. Zhang Zhong sent people to contact them. At the beginning, the price of the first batch was already very low. However, after receiving 2 batches, the price dropped again and again. Moreover, they would first take the grain and then the livestock. This way, the cost of the livestock's food would be transferred to the Tubo people. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for the Tubo people. In the end, when they took half of the grain that others had hoarded, Zhang Zhong told everyone that he had no more money and needed to first owe them. The Tubo people naturally did not want to do so. Zhang Zhong could owe them, but they could not. Zhang Zhong asked people to discuss with them for a few days. After not being able to pay them on credit, he lowered the price by a lot. Other than the grain that the Tubo people were preparing to transport back, the rest of the grain was taken by Zhang Zhong. Right at this moment, the secret agent who was at the front lines in Tubo sent someone back to deliver a message. A month ago, after Cuckoo led the light cavalry and disappeared into the vast desert, they attacked the Tubo people in Shuazhou. They attacked countless villages in the periphery of Shuazhou and burned a large amount of autumn grain. 20 days ago, Cuckoo went around the enemy's regular army and entered the vicinity of Daowu City. She wiped out 2 large groups of 3,000 people that the Tubo people did not have time to arrange. She almost attacked the city by tricking the enemy into opening the city gates. After she was discovered, she killed 1,000 soldiers and disappeared again. She also burned a large portion of the Tubo people's autumn grain. 15 days ago, Cuckoo led the light cavalry and headed north. After that, she hid in the mountains and avoided a group of Tubo people. She used the Tubo people's clothes and voices to trick the enemy into opening the gates of Gada City. She entered from the east of the city and came out from the west. She robbed Gada City and burned it. Then she attacked Damba again and avoided the Tubo people's encirclement. When she arrived at the periphery of Damba City, she lured the Damba guards out of the city and formed a formation to stop her. Then she returned and massacred a group of 2,000 people from a small tribe that the Tubo people had sent as reinforcements. She went around Damba City and crossed the river between Damba City and Jinchuan City. 6 days ago, half of the army that crossed the river was led by Zhang Xiaobao and led the Tubo people to escape to the village. Cuckoo led the people who were hiding and did not cross the river and went up the coast. She burned the provisions of the Tubo soldiers that came out of Jinchuan City. She also killed 1,000 Tubo people who were escorting the provisions and were unprepared to cross the river. Then she successfully used the Tubo boats to cross the river and ambushed the Tubo army that was chasing after Xiaobao. After the ambush was successful, she and Xiaobao went to the mountain where the Tubo people had ambushed them. Then they ambushed Lufu Tuta's tribe and Mumu Hushu's tribe. The 4,000 cavalrymen that came back as reinforcements were defeated. Then they chased after them and attacked the 2 tribes. 2 days ago, Cuckoo brought people to the village and lured the Tubo cavalrymen that were sent to attack them. She burned the cavalrymen and killed all 5,000 of the Tubo cavalrymen. Then she brought the remaining 6,000 light cavalrymen and the 10,000 elite soldiers that were deployed earlier to attack Mumu Hushu's tribe head-on and disappeared into the Tubo territory. When this news came out, Pengzhou, which was the first to know about it, was in an uproar, especially the officials. They never thought that Cuckoo would be so daring as to go deep into the Tubo territory. She fought and ran at the same time, fooling the Tubo people. In the end, she ran back and killed 5,000 Tubo cavalrymen and defeated Mumu Hushu's tribe head-on. The most important thing was not how many people were killed, but how much food was burned. Tubo was finished. This year's winter was completely over. There was definitely not enough food for them to eat. They could not rob the border like before. The only way was to rob the other country's food. It was estimated that they would lose a lot of soldiers. The officials knew the general situation. The commander there was Cuckoo. The Tubo people also said that it was Cuckoo. They would not admit that there was someone more powerful. The first thought that appeared in the minds of the officials here was that they must send the taxes collected this year to Zhang Zhong in time. They must be more proactive and not wait for Zhang Zhong to send people to urge them. It would be easy for Zhang Zhong to misunderstand that they did not want to give the taxes to him. Then, what would happen to his daughter-in-law when she returned? Also, the officials were worried about Cuckoo. The Tubo people were killed until their eyes were red. There were so many of them, but they could not catch a little girl. The little girl came and went as she pleased. They sent out many soldiers to block the entrance. No matter what, they could not let Cuckoo escape. The officials were all afraid that Cuckoo would be blocked. At this time, Cuckoo was suddenly very contradictory in their hearts. She was not a demon, but a little girl who was going to be bullied by many adults. A very cute little girl. Zhang Zhong was also worried. He did not expect that his daughter-in-law could be so good. After disappearing for such a long time, she shocked everyone when she reappeared. He was really afraid that his son and daughter-in-law would be blocked. After all, the Tubo people had crazily arranged layers of heavy soldiers in Pengzhou. There were also many cavalries, the kind where each person rode 2 horses. They were determined to chase Cuckoo. After Old Man Pai and the other 2 received the news, they looked at each other and did not say a word. After a full hour, Old Man Pai was the first to speak. This time, Cuckoo can be considered to have made a great contribution to our dynasty. I reckon that the Tubo people will not be able to recover in a few years. It is not only the provisions that were burned, but also the morale of the soldiers. As long as Cuckoo successfully escapes, the Tubo people will not dare to act rashly in the future. Even if other people use Cuckoo's flag, they will be able to scare off a small group of Tubo troops. That's right. No wonder Xiaobao and Cuckoo wrote a letter back and asked this side to say that the general leading the troops was someone else. It turns out that Cuckoo wanted to make a big move at that time. She really succeeded. She made use of the speed of the cavalries and made the Tubo people unable to react in time. She specifically attacked places that others would not expect. Old Man Yao also said happily. Old Man Chang appeared to be very anxious. He urged at the side, "We should let Pengzhou send out troops to help Cuckoo come back. We can't just ignore her. The Tubo people have blocked most of the roads." That's right. If we don't send out troops to help, Cuckoo will be in trouble. We can't let our hero be sat outside. Old Man Pai made a decision. Old Man Yao immediately asked someone to bring the 4 treasures of the study and prepared to write a letter to the people in Pengzhou. This time, he was using his own name to request Pengzhou to forcefully send out troops. Even if he was impeached by the imperial court, he would do it. However, he believed that the imperial court would not say anything. He thought that even if he sent the news to the imperial court, the emperor would also think the same. However, there was not enough time. Who knew what situation Cuckoo was in right now and where she ran to? If she was one day late and was surrounded, wouldn't he regret it to death? Just as Old Man Yao was writing the letter, another news came from Pengzhou. This time, it was not from the Tubo people, but from Shui Yunlai. Zhang Zhong took the letter and hurriedly found Old Man Pai and the other 2. He said to the 3 of them, "Don't be in a hurry to write a letter to Pengzhou to send out troops." Cuckoo and Xiaobao wrote a letter saying that we don't have to worry about them. When we saw the letter, they were already on their way back. If we miss them, we can go to Changgu Town to pick them up. Bring more ginger so that we can make soup. Changgu Town? Where is it? Old Man Chang asked curiously. Old Man Pai used to be an official here and knew the general location. When he heard that it was Changgu Town, he immediately knew why Cuckoo and the others had returned. He said, Cuckoo and the others were preparing to cross the Great Snow Mountain. No wonder she still had the logistics people and the people there walk back through Pengzhou despite the dangerous situation previously. It turns out that she didn't want the enemy to discover that there was another way to get here. The Great Snow Mountain is indeed dangerous. When I thought about it, Cuckoo and the others had already made preparations. Yes, that's it. They probably burned charcoal along the way. The vegetable oil was prepared to burn the Tubo cavalry, and the charcoal was naturally left for crossing the Great Snow Mountain. At that time, she had already thought of an escape route. When Old Man Pai said this, Old Man Chang was relieved. Since they were able to return, it was good. Regardless of whether they had to cross the mountain or the ridge, with the charcoal to warm them, they probably wouldn't freeze to death. Thinking of this, Old Man Chang said to Zhang Zhong, "Your two children are amazing now. One is leading the army over there, and the other left a plan early on to win the economic war over here. One is a scholar, and the other is a warrior. We don't have to worry about them in the future." After Zhang Zhong knew that his son and daughter-in-law were fine, he was happy. When he heard Old Man Chang's praise, he smiled so much that his eyes narrowed into a line. He said humbly, "You flatter me, you flatter me. The children still need to learn more. They can't think so highly of themselves just because they have some ability. When they come back, I will teach them a good lesson." Here is also Xiaobao's plan. He wants us to sell grain to Tubo. He said that in the spirit of international humanitarianism, we can't just watch the Tubo people starve to death. We have to help them and sell the excess grain to Tubo. They only need to pay a little bit of horses and livestock. Because the price of grain this year is too high, we can't ask for too low a price. Otherwise, the local people will suffer. We will sell to Tubo cheaply at 50 copper coins for a bucket of millet and 65 copper coins for a bucket of rice. This price is only slightly higher. Of course, because we have used new technology here, the price of livestock will be lower. In the past, it used to be 5 strings of coins for a horse to pull the carriage. Now, it is 3 strings of coins. Also, since they are coming from Tubo, they will get thinner along the way. When they reach Great Tang, they must be nourished with good food. Let Tubo fork out another 500 copper coins, which is 2 strings of coins for a horse. The rest of the livestock and good horses will be sold according to this price. Zhang Zhong said modestly. He then took out the letter written by his son and read it to the 3 old men. The 3 old men didn't expect that Xiaobao still didn't forget to scheme against Tubo at this time. The large amount of grain that they had just bought at a low price was sold at a higher price. What international humanitarianism! It was a mess of names. It sounded good, but in reality, it was just him pretending to be innocent after getting such a good deal. Good idea. This time, Tubo has no choice but to buy. Otherwise, they can only wait to starve to death. Without people, how are they going to rebuild? If they buy, there won't be enough livestock and war horses. What will they do for next year's spring plowing? Also, the number of cavalry in the army will be reduced by a lot. Our Great Tang will gain many benefits. I estimate that Tubo won't be able to recover in 5 years. By the time they recover, our Great Tang will be stronger than before. Maybe at that time, it will be the time to accept Tubo into Great Tang. Quickly go and make the arrangements. Don't let the Tubo people know about this. If that happens, they won't sell their livestock. If we buy their livestock now, the price will be lower. Old Man Chang said excitedly and urged Zhang Zhong to make the arrangements. While waiting for Zhang Zhong to buy the livestock at a low price, the 3 old men discussed and prepared to bring people to Chang'o Town to fetch Cuckoo and Xiaobao back. It would be very cold to cross the snowy mountains, so they prepared some ginger soup for the heroes. Zhang Zhong bought the livestock very quickly and didn't continue to bargain. He directly gave the money and asked the Tubo people to give the money to the Yan family in Tunghua County. At this time, Tubo number 1 had no more money. All the money he had invested in the beginning was given away. In the end, the Zhang family made a profit. They made a lot of money from the grain and livestock. The people who bought and sold the livestock made a lot of money. The people who grew grains made a profit. The people who didn't grow grains also didn't make a loss. Although some of them bought grains at a high price and hoarded them, Zhang Zhong compensated them by getting them to repair the road. This money was enough to make up for the portion that they bought grains at a high price. Otherwise, Zhang Zhong didn't lack manpower. Why did he specially look for the people who didn't grow grains? The people who grew grains were also idle. The person who lost the money was Tubo's no. 1. He had put in all the money he had earned in the past, as well as other jewelry. The bank had also lost some money. The price of the house was obviously not as high as the original price. The people who made a loss were the merchants who cooperated with the Tubo people. They really made a loss. Zhang Zhong didn't care about them. Who asked them to do it when they knew the consequences of raising the price of goods? It was already good enough that he didn't arrest them and punish them. It was impossible for him to directly give them the money they lost. However, some of them wrote letters to him later. Zhang Zhong didn't give the money. Instead, he cooperated with them to do business and let them make up for their losses. When he collected the grains, they were also willing to lower the price of the grains again and again to give others a start. After Tubo number 1 made the arrangements, he ran away. He didn't know that someone in Great Tang had been watching him for a long time. It was just that they didn't want to catch him. They wanted to keep him and make use of him at a critical time. It was the same for the others. On this day, there was a rare moment of sunlight in winter. The people were busy repairing the road, and the merchants were also doing their own business. Zhonggang and Little Chong were about to reach Yingzhou. They were invited by Zhang Zhong to discuss a business deal. If it wasn't because they had money, where would they have money? They had already lost it. When Zhang Zhong gave them their name cards, he had written it very clearly. He invited them over and didn't plan to get much investment from them because when they were merchants, they didn't put all their thoughts on money. At the very least, they were still patriotic when it came to selecting seeds. With this patriotic heart of theirs, they would be given a chance. Little Chong, does Lord Zhang really know everything? So he already knew about this matter, but didn't say anything. I thought he knew. Zhonggang, who was sitting in the carriage, was so happy that he couldn't sit still when he realized that there would be a good business deal in Yingzhou with the Zhang family. He hated that he couldn't grow a pair of wings and fly to this place as soon as possible. Little Chong was also happy. He said to Zhonggang, "De gang, now you know how powerful the Zhang family is, right? They know everything, but they don't say anything. They'll make trouble for whoever participates in it. Right now, I want to go there and have a fight with Bai Xin. I want to learn from her. She'll like you? You haven't even entered the top ranking. She's ranked 10th. How can she be willing to play with you? She'll be bullying you." Zhonggang poured cold water on Little Chong. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, Little Chong fell silent and lowered his head to think. After a while, Little Chong raised his head and said, "Then I'll give it a try." Fighting against an expert can improve. Even if I have to pay a little more to have her fight with me, I'm willing. While the two of them were talking, a large number of people came from the main road in the west. The line was very long, and the people at the front were all on horseback. Their carriages immediately stopped to make way for them. The driver stood respectfully under the carriage and looked at the approaching line. He was so excited that his face turned red. When the person at the front of the line came close to him, he knelt down in front of the tattered flag that was fluttering in the wind. The driver's action stunned Little Chong and Zhonggang, who had just gotten off the carriage. When they looked at the flag and recognized the pattern on it, the two of them also became excited. On the tattered flag was a cute rice sprout. The rice sprout was trying its best to pull the carriage with its big eyes. By now, almost everyone knew what this flag represented. When the two of them looked at the travel-worn riders in the line, they immediately knew what kind of team this was. The Great Tang's light cavalry that had killed countless enemies under the command of Cuckoo from the logistics camp in Yizhou and had made a name for itself in Tubo. In the middle of the crowd, there were two children on horseback. They nodded and smiled at the people who suddenly saw them and made respectful expressions. The boy looked very energetic, while the girl was smiling like a flower. When the people on the road saw them, they all felt that these two children were so cute that they couldn't describe it. How nice would it be if they were their own children? This was especially so for the girl. She was so bright, and her sweet smile made people feel very comfortable. It would be even better if they could hug her and give her a big kiss. Of course, the people only thought this. They knew who this cute and obedient girl was. Although the imperial court had already released news that there was an expert behind cuckoo, many people still didn't believe it, especially after people gradually understood the situation behind this economic war. The people believed that it wasn't a big deal for the Zhang family to have an expert. It was this cute girl who led an army to kill the Tubo army that had less than 10,000 people and made them run away, not daring to fight. It was this girl who made the Tubo army use countless soldiers to encircle and annihilate them. It was this girl who used blood to question whether the Tubo army dared or not. Now that the girl had returned home, her smile was so beautiful. Where was the bloodiness of the battlefield? It was all because the Tubo people were too evil. Otherwise, how could such a good girl kill so many people? Yes, that's right, that's it. What demon? She suddenly became ignorant and didn't know how to name herself. She was clearly a fairy. The coachman who knelt down shouted at Wang Wan with tears streaming down his face, "Cuckoo, you're finally back. My wife and I have been worried about you. We were afraid that you would be blocked by people. It's good that you're back." Wang Wan was stunned when she saw this person. This person's reaction was too intense. Did he have to kneel down? Cuckoo, you might not know, but among the people who died in Suzhou's Wangjiang, I was the only one, and my sister-in-law's family was washed away by the water. I didn't have the ability to fight against the Tubo people, but you did. You avenged them, so you are my family's benefactor. I thank you. If you didn't lead the troops to kill them, when would I be able to avenge my brother's family? You killed them well. You asked a good question. I've decided. In the future, the Zhang family and the Wang family will sit in my carriage. I don't want a single cent. I'll kowtow to you. As the coachman spoke, he really used his head to kowtow to the ground. The surrounding commoners, as well as Wang Wan and the others, understood. So that was the case. Wang Wan was also filled with emotions. She got off the horse and helped the coachman up. She said solemnly, "They harmed me, so I slaughtered their entire village. I haven't killed enough. When there's a chance in the future, I will continue to kill. This time, I'm tired from killing, so I came back to rest. When the imperial court really mobilizes troops against the Tubo people, I will lead the troops out." When the cavalrymen heard Wang Wan's words, they also shouted, "Kill, kill." The moment the cavalrymen shouted, they immediately gave off a different feeling. This was a person who had truly returned from the battlefield. There was a faint smell of blood on their bodies. That kind of gaze made people not dare to look straight at them. Old Man Pai and the other two were also among the troops. They finally brought the people back. More than 15,000 soldiers had successfully crossed over the snowy mountain. Although more than 100 of them had fainted, they were still carried back. Along the way, there were charcoal fires to keep them warm, and no one froze to death. At the beginning, the three old men hugged and kissed the two little fellows who had made great contributions. Speaking of which, it was strange. The two little fellows who had frightened the Tubo people to such an extent seemed to have changed into another person when they returned to the Great Tang. They were completely unlike the other soldiers who had yet to recover from the battle. They did not know how the two little fellows did it, but the more they acted like this, the cuter they looked. When they thought about it carefully, they felt a chill from inside out. This showed that when the two little fellows killed the Tubo people until their corpses were piled up like mountains and rivers of blood flowed like rivers, they did not treat the Tubo people as people at all. After all, those were human lives that were taken one after another. Just thinking about how tragic it was when they killed the Tubo people made them feel terrified. Could the little fellows be so cold-blooded? However, after Cuckoo said this, the three old men relaxed. Cuckoo was right. One should treat the enemy as cold as ice and treat one's own people as warm as fire. After she said this, she and Xiao Bao also did the same. Along the way, she even cooked a few meals for Old Man Pai and the other two. She also sensibly told the three old men about the things that happened at the front line like a family member. This made Old Man Pai and the other two old men unable to associate the two little fellows with the people who fought in Tubo some time ago. They were clearly their own grandson and granddaughter. Look at how good they were. When they smiled, they had two dimples. At this time, Zhang Zhong also hurried over. He had long wanted to personally welcome them, but there were still many things that he needed to do here. He could only endure it and persuade his family to stay. If they were to get sick while rushing over, that would not be good. Under the blessing gazes of the people, Zhang Zhong came in front of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He hugged the two children and kissed them left and right. However, he could not say a single word. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he tried his best to not let them fall. "Father, did you kill the Tubo people? How much money did you cheat? It must be a lot. Now, we can eat and drink to our heart's content." Zhang Xiaobao also enjoyed his father's care and said to his father, "What do you mean by how much money did you cheat? We did honest business and earned a lot. Cuckoo brought people over there to burn a lot of food. I reckon that most of it is still behind. Next time, you are not allowed to run away for many days without giving me any news. Xiao Bei and the others are talking about you two every day. They even broke boats and stuck maple leaves on them. If you two don't come back, they will get sick. They won't be able to play every day and won't eat much." When Zhang Zhong heard his son's words, a smile appeared on his face. He said a few words to his son and daughter-in-law. Only then did he stand up and walk forward while holding one in each hand. The cavalry behind her also dismounted, leading their horses and following behind. At the very back were the 10,000 elite soldiers. They had only fought a single battle and had defeated a portion of the Tubo troops. While they were feeling happy, they were even more convinced of the female general, Wan Wan. They were also very respectful towards the light cavalry, and following behind, they did not even dare to think about their status as elite soldiers. The cavalry had killed countless people. Even if it was not enough at the beginning, after this battle, they were no longer ordinary soldiers. The blood on their bodies and the injuries they suffered said everything. The troops slowly walked forward. The commoners, who saw them, retreated to the side of the road. No one made a sound. They just looked at the heroes in their hearts. At this moment, Zhong Gang pushed little Chong out and shouted to Zhang Zhong, "Lord Zhang, we are merchants who received your invitation and came here. We did not let down the great Tang. This is little Chong. He wants to ask you to give him a chance to fight against the tycoons with Bai Xinshin. Little Chong is going to enter the top level soon. He almost passed the test twice. This time, he will definitely pass. Don't talk. Can't you see that he is enjoying family affection? My matter is not urgent. Lord Zhang, you do what you need to do. He is a straightforward person. He doesn't think before he speaks. Don't worry about me. I am fine." Little Worm looked around worriedly and explained to Zhang Zhong. Sure enough, the surrounding commoners all looked at him with an expression that said, "Why are you acting like this?" Zhang Zhong was in a good mood and didn't care about such trivial matters. Wang Wan also smiled at the two of them. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the two of them with interest and said to them, "Don't worry. Sister Xin Air might not have time. She is also busy. How about this? When you reach Yingzhou, I will play with you. How about it? As long as you can last 6 hours against me, I will allow you to enter the top-level game. You? You can't. You are just a child. It is better for Xinshin to come. She is strong," Zhong Gang said very directly. "How about this? When you win against me, I'll help you talk to Sister Xin. When the time comes, she will definitely agree. How about it?" Zhang Xiaobao asked again. "Okay, you said it. I will agree on little Chang's behalf. You must be careful. Don't get angry when you lose." Zhong Gang immediately agreed and glanced at little Chong. His meaning was for little Chong to work hard and beat the young master of the Zhang family first, so that he could compete with Bai Xinshin. Little Chong did not look at Zhong Gang at all, but stared at Zhang Xiaobao. He suddenly felt that there was something wrong with the expression in this child's eyes. It was like a master speaking to a new disciple, very magnanimous and confident. as if he was going to test his disciple. At this time, Old Man Pai and the other two walked over. Old Man Pai looked at Little Chong and said with a kind smile, "Not bad. You did not betray Great Tang. We should give you a chance. You must cherish it. As long as you can hold on under Xiao Bao's attacks, you will definitely enter the top level. Don't be fooled by Xiao Bao's 6 hours. Under that kind of speed, if you can hold on for 2 hours, you will be qualified to enter the top level. If you can really hold on for 6 hours, there will be a place for you in the top 10. Ah? You are? You're telling the truth? He's that good. I know who you are. No wonder you look so familiar. You are Sir Bai, and I have your portrait. Could he be more powerful than your granddaughter? Zhong Gang said quickly. Old Man Pai shook his head and left with a smile. Old Man Yao also said to Little Chong, "Work hard. You must cherish this opportunity. Don't look down on anyone, or else you will regret it. You will understand after the competition." Not bad, young man. Old Man Chong patted Little Chong's shoulder and left after giving him a word of praise. The trio's words stunned Zhonggang, and at the same time stunned Xiao Chong. Watching the procession gradually disappear into the distance, Xiao Chong thought for a moment and then muttered softly, "Could it be that this little young master of the Zhang family is even more powerful than Bai Xin? Hold on for 6 hours? I am someone who is about to enter the top level. Even young Master Song can't defeat me in 6 hours, right? Could it be, could it be? No, this is definitely impossible. I don't believe it." "Little Chong, what are you saying? Why don't you believe it?" Zhong Gang nudged Little Chong and asked. "I don't believe that I can't hold on for more than 6 hours under his hands. Unless he is, what is he? Why are you so slow?" Zhong Gang urged. "Unless he is the commander of the economic war with Tubo this time. Only that person has such ability. That last chain of attacks could be said to be earth-shattering." Little Chong's voice was trembling. However, he definitely did not believe that this young master was that person. Even if he was beaten to death, he would not believe it. Chapter 650. The mountains were continuous, and the water was gurgling. When they met after returning, there was no need to mention how much they missed each other. The trees were curved, and the wind blew continuously. When people stood in front of them, the clouds were on the horizon. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were pulled along by Zhang Zhong as they walked back unhurriedly. Behind them were the light cavalrymen who were leading the horses, as well as the remaining 9,000 elite soldiers who were defeated in just one battle. The originally busy commoners weren't in a hurry to do their own things. They also followed at the back of the group, hoping that they could do something to help. They all knew that they didn't have to worry about Tubo invading the border. At least within 3 years, Tubo wouldn't be able to recover. This time, they were crippled. It wasn't that they lost a lot of soldiers, but that their morale was destroyed. After traveling for 2 hours, they arrived at the mountain entrance to Wing Province Prefecture. What entered Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's eyes was a paved road. The middle of the road was paved with stones, and the two sides were complemented by cement. The cement road was for pedestrians to walk on, and the middle was for horses to run on. There happened to be a group of merchants in front of them. There were also many commoners helping to transport the goods. Just now, there were already people who took the small path to deliver the news in advance. Each and every one of them stood in place, not daring to block the way, so as not to delay the hero's return home. If the dozens of big merchants here were to join forces, they could once again shake up Jiannan Province's stable economic environment like the Tubo people. However, none of them appeared to be complacent. Even their voices were very soft. This time, it wasn't because of Zhang family and Wang family's financial resources. It was all because of Cuckoo, the great general who had fought in Tubo for thousands of miles without a single defeat. For the sake of the commoners, she had slaughtered countless Tubo soldiers. It would be a lie to say that they weren't afraid. If by any chance someone blocked her path, the little child's temper flared up. Who would care about who you were? Perhaps she would flip over and get on the horse letting you personally experience the power of the cavalry's charge. However, when Zhang Zhong held his son and daughter-in-law in each hand and walked over, many of the merchants rubbed their eyes. Could the little girl who was skipping and jumping as she walked be the demoness who killed Tubo, who had 4 times the military strength of the Tubo people, and didn't dare to move lightly? She didn't look like it. She didn't look like it at all. She was clearly a carefree little girl next door. If it wasn't for the tattered flag fluttering behind her back, who would have thought that this girl would still have a smile on her face when she killed? As Wang Wan approached, the merchants tacitly took a step back to show their modesty. When Cuckoo nodded and smiled, the merchants also responded with what they thought was the most sincere smile. They were worried that if their expressions were wrong, they would be killed on the spot by the light cavalry behind them. There was no need to doubt whether they dared to do so. The soldiers, who had returned covered in blood and had yet to fully adapt to the situation, only had the dignity of a general in their hearts. They did not care about anything else. Axes, pickaxes, I'll unload the goods from the truck. You guys load them up and help me share the load. Quick. A person in the crowd who was pedaling a tricycle said to the 2 people next to him. He began to dump the goods. The tricycle was designed with the function of flipping. With a press and a tilt, all the goods on the tricycle were dumped onto the ground. Oh, you want to pay for it? The goods are spoilt. The owner should take action. Fu Tu complained as he hurried over to reload the goods. Fine, I'll pay for it. I'm going to pull a big hero home. As long as I can pull him, I'll pay for it. Ho pushed the tricycle forward. A merchant who hired them to carry the goods saw Ho dumping the goods, and his expression changed. He wanted to flare up, but held it in. He did not dare to cause trouble at this time. When he heard Ho's undisguised words and saw Ho rushing forward, the merchant's expression changed again. He smiled and said softly to Axe and Pickaxes who were worried for Ho, It's fine, it's fine. It's just some goods. It's fine to throw them all away. Ho can't pull anyone, but I won't say anything. If he pulls anyone, I'll personally treat you to a drink. This is a good thing, a good thing. Axe and Pickaxe were stunned. Since when did the most unreasonable Chung Dongjia become so easy to talk to? Did the sun rise from the west? Only Boss Chung knew in his heart that Ho's reasoning was too good. Regardless of whether he managed to pull anyone, he could not find trouble with him. Otherwise, if word got out that he dealt with a person who wanted to pull a big hero and the big hero did not care, others would drown him with saliva. Even if he was not wrong to ask for compensation, no one would reason with him. Everyone was shocked by Shotu's sudden charge. The people from the protection team immediately surrounded Zhang Zhong and the other 2. The 200 or so cavalrymen behind them saw the situation, and in the blink of an eye, they drew their bows and knocked their arrows. The arrows were as cold as ice, and the bows were bent like a full moon. Their speed was fast, and their movements were synchronized. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the people's eyes and nodded to Wang Wan and Wei Wei. Wang Wan waved her hand, and the people from the protection team turned around and made way. The cavalrymen behind them kept their arrows and bows in an orderly manner. The commoners who were watching the commotion were shocked again. The people in front were shocked by the sudden charge, while the people behind were shocked by the team of heroes. The instant change of movement was too beautiful. What are you doing? Zhang Zhong saw that his son and daughter-in-law did not overreact and knew that the person who rushed over would not hurt them. Otherwise, there would be no need for others. His son and daughter-in-law could kill this person on the spot. How could the bystanders know that when he went out, the most powerful bodyguards were not from the protection team, but the 2 children? Ho was full of courage earlier, but now he was so scared that he did not dare to speak. He thought about his identity, and then thought about the other person's identity. He lowered his head and stammered, Lord Zhang, I want to use the tricycle to pull you, the young master, and the young lady. I think it's not bad, but there's a slope in front. I'm sorry to drag you down. Just as Ho was about to go back on his words, and others thought that he was dreaming, Wang Wan smiled and agreed. Really? I'm not tired at all. But you're a hero. I'll pull you if I pull you. You said it yourself, I'm a hero. I'm not paying to sit on your tricycle. Uncle Zhang, Xiaobao, let's get on. Our hometown's tricycle is more comfortable than the horses from other places. Wang Wan helped Ho out of his predicament again. She took the lead and got on the tricycle. She did not care if the tricycle was dirty or not. Zhang Xiaobao sat beside Wang Wan, while Zhang Zhong sat opposite them. He nodded to Ho and said, "Let's go. We trust you. Cuckoo and Xiaobao can sit on our hometown's tricycle. It's better than riding outside. It's hard to ride on a foreign land's tricycle, but our hometown's tricycle can worry us." When Chu Tu saw the three of them get on the carriage and Governor Zhang's words, his eyes turned red. This trust made him feel warm. He lifted his leg and got on the carriage. Looking ahead, the originally tiring slope had become a flat road in his eyes. He realized that his body was filled with energy. Even if he rode to the top of the snow mountain, it wouldn't be a problem. The people around them were shocked once again, and then they revealed happy smiles. In their eyes, these three people who were so high that no one could compare with them sat on an ordinary tricycle and didn't lose their dignity at all. They were cold to strangers and peaceful to their own people. The contrast between the two made people understand them better. They did not show the slightest bit of arrogance and did not look down on people of lower status. This was Wing Prefecture's Governor Zhang Zhong and his family. The commoners thought as they looked at the blue sky with floating clouds. They had never felt so good before. Oh, did you see that? Capable people will never show off their power to their own people. Only incompetent people will show off their power to people like us. Axehead said to Ho Head as he moved the goods left behind by Ho Head into his car. Ho nodded. Isn't that so? Our county's small officials ask the bailiffs to scare us and talk about how powerful their servants are. They bully us. Look at Cuckoo. When she was in Tubo, she killed thousands of people with a wave of her hand. She did not look down on us. How can our county's small officials be compared to her? Chung Dongjia's jaw dropped as he watched Ho Tu drag the three away. He blinked twice and smiled like a flower. He said to Ho Tu and Axe Tu, "Take your time, there's no rush. If you can't pull any more, just throw the goods away. Don't tire yourself out. Remember to find Ho Tu when we get there. Let's have a meal together." Ho and Axe looked at Chung Dongjia in a new light. They felt that Chung Dongjia seemed to have changed into a different person. Ho thought of a prostitute and shook his head. "Chung Dongjia, it's fine as long as you pay me. I won't look for a woman. Otherwise, if my wife finds out, she'll twist my ear off." "Ha ha ha, you're so timid. You're afraid of your wife. Let's not talk about the pay today. How much is it? If you're really afraid of your wife, just order a few more dishes and put them in a lunchbox to bring back." Chung Dongjia patted Shou's shoulder and said with a smile. Axe was puzzled. He looked at Chung Dongjia and asked carefully, "Chung Dongjia, what are you?" "What am I? I used to think too highly of myself. Now that I've compared myself to Lord Zhang, Xiaobao, and Cuckoo, I know how ridiculous I was. If you want people to respect you, it's useless to keep a straight face. People aren't fools. Even if you show respect on the surface, you don't know how to curse in your heart. Look at Cuckoo. Even if she takes a tricycle, who dares to look down on her? Everyone knows what's going on. Besides, we'll be working with her family in the future. We have to learn from her. When the weather gets cold, we'll look for you to work and give you extra pay." "What's this called?" Yes, it said that Lord Zhang hung a piece of calligraphy in his study. It says, "Great love is silent." When Chung Dongjia saw the scene, just now, he suddenly understood many things. He said a few words to Axe and Ho. With his hands behind his back, he walked in front of them. He looked 10 years younger. When it was almost evening, Ho finally brought Zhang Zhong and the other two to the prefectural city. Although he was sweating profusely, he still had a lot of energy. On the way there, he even chatted with Zhang Zhong and the other two, which made him very excited. It wasn't just because he could talk to three people of high status. Most importantly, he said that it was tiring to ride uphill. Hero Cuckoo seriously promised that she would immediately come up with new technology to change the current tricycle speed. She said something about using a large gear to drive a small gear on flat ground, and a small gear to drive a large gear on difficult terrain. Young Master Xiaobao also said something about changing the handrail into an upper and lower handrail. The upper handrail was horizontal and the lower handrail was concave. He didn't understand, but he knew that Cuckoo and Xiaobao really took him seriously as a coolie. They didn't rest when they returned home, but they started thinking of ways to make things easier for him. Zhang Zhong and the other two didn't get off the tricycle. Even when Ho's sweat soaked his clothes, they still sat on the tricycle. It wasn't that they didn't want to get off, but they couldn't. If they got off, Ho would be very disappointed. Chapter 651. When Xiaobao and Cuckoo saw Xiaobei and the rest, Xiaobei and the rest also saw the brothers and sisters in the car. They held hands and rushed forward, tumbling as they ran. Xiaobao and Cuckoo finally couldn't sit still. They jumped down from the car, ran to the front, and squatted down to kiss each and every one of them. Xiaobei's eyes were red as he threw himself into Xiaobao's arms. He panted and said, "Brother, I was afraid that you and sister wouldn't come back. Isn't that so? I didn't want to come back, but when I thought about how Xiaobei was still waiting at home, how could I not come back? In the end, I taught them a lesson and came back. I also brought a lot of good things for Xiaobei, including food and toys." Zhang Xiaobao rubbed Xiaobei's face that was red from the wind and said with an exaggerated expression, "Really?" Xiaobei immediately put on a smiling face. There were still tears in his eyes as he asked curiously, "Really? I even caught a few big fish from the desert lake. I dried them and brought them back. Xiaobei, how do you want to eat them?" Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty. Back then, he and Wang Wan were indeed thinking of bringing something back for the little ones. If the Tubo people knew about this, who knew how they would feel? The two of them actually considered bringing something back for their younger siblings when they were fighting. They were really looking down on others. Wang Wan's younger brother, Xiao Yuan, who was waiting for his brother to carry him, anxiously stood on the other side of Zhang Xiaobao and said, "It's my turn, it's my turn. Make way, it's my turn." "No, I'm just making some space. My brother asked me to eat fish. Make fish slices." Xiaobei originally didn't want to make way, but after thinking about it, he moved to the side and left half a space for Xiao Yuan. Zhang Xiaobao hugged Xiao Yuan again and nodded in agreement. "Then make fish slices. Make big fish slices. Big fish. Yes, big fish slices. Let Xiao Yuan eat the fish bones." Xiao Bei was happy and said while shaking his head, "I'll let you have it. The bones are delicious too." Xiao Yuan argued, "Why are you still squeezing me?" Xiao Bei snuggled into Zhang Xiaobao's arms. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were extremely busy. They hugged one, and kissed another. They had to tell every child that they had brought something good. Their words did not count. The members of the protection team even brought over all the food and toys that they had found in the desert. There were big dried fish, lake pearls, beautiful shells, grasshoppers woven with needlegrass, dried desert cistanche, and even 4 living animals, wild camels. He didn't know how Xiaobao and Cuckoo had kept the 4 camels for their younger brothers and sisters. There were 2 males and 2 females, so they could ride the camels and play with them. They also brought back a lot of loot from the camels they killed. Zhang Xiaobao also didn't lack the cured ham. He used wild boar intestines to make smoked sausages. It gave people the feeling that the two of them didn't seem like they had just returned from a battle in Tubo. Instead, they seemed like they had just returned from a vacation. Old Man Pai and the other two also came over. Even if they didn't understand military warfare, they also understood how precious the things that Xiaobao and Cuckoo brought back were. They were kept while they were fighting with their lives on the line. "Cuckoo, don't you want to live anymore? If you want to go to war, then go to war. Why did you bring so many things? What are you trying to do?" Old Man Pai was anxious and asked with his eyes wide open. Wang Wan smiled. "Is there a conflict between going to war and bringing things? I brought more than 10 camels and gave them to Tubo on the way. So what if they are camels? They can't run on their own. Can't I tie them up and use a few horses to carry them? 2 of them even froze to death on the snowy mountains. I'll cook them later and give them to Xiao Bei and the others." Zhang Xiaobao also echoed from the side. "Isn't that right? It's just dealing with tubo. There's no need to be so serious. I'll cook the camel humps tomorrow. Everyone try it." "That's right. Try it." Xiao Bei didn't know what it was like to bring a burden like camels to war. He also chimed in. Zhang Zhong watched from aside and thought that Xiao Bei and the others weren't worried about their brother and sister in vain. These 2 kids were too bold. It seemed that they dared to do anything and could do anything. Just to bring back something fun for Xiao Bei and the others, they actually took such a big risk and really faced the Tubo army. They could do whatever they wanted. Old Man Pai was speechless for a moment. He felt that he should release the news of Cuckoo and Xiao Bao's gifts to Tubo. Through these things, they would inform Tubo. "Do you see? This is the commander-in-chief of Izhou's logistics camp, Cuckoo. She sneaked in and ambushed you while you were surrounded. She even brought camels for her younger brothers and sisters to play with. Should the army that was preparing to intercept Pengzhou withdraw or not? Be careful that if Cuckoo was happy, she would bring her younger brothers and sisters to lead 100,000 elite soldiers and kill their way back." Chu Tu, who was pulling the carriage, also saw the scene of Xiao Bao and Cuckoo reuniting with their family. He wiped the sweat that continuously flowed out from his tired body as he rushed over and laughed foolishly. While Wang Wan was enjoying her family, she turned her head and saw Chu Tu. She hugged Xiao Bei and asked, "Xiao Bei, this uncle brought brother, sister, and father back. He's very tired. What should we do?" Xiao Bei was still holding a pearl in his hand. When he heard his sister's words, he raised his head and looked at Chu Tu. He left his sister's embrace and walked forward. He raised the pearl with both hands and said to Chu Tu, "Thank you, uncle. Xiao Bei will give you this pearl." Chu Tu didn't expect such a young child to be so sensible. He wanted to take the pearl, but he knew how precious it was. He wanted to refuse, but he couldn't face Xiao Bei's expectant gaze. He sweated even faster and said nervously, "I don't want money. I'm willing to pull. In the future, as long as Little Master and Little Miss want to sit in my carriage, I'll pull. Take it. This isn't money. It's Xiao Bei's gratitude and blessing. In the future, if you encounter a problem that you can't solve, take this pearl out." Old Man Chang was more direct. He lifted Xiao Bei up and let Chu Tu take the pearl. When Ho Tu obediently took the pearl, he still didn't fully understand the value of the pearl. Xiao Bei was the youngest princess of the 2 families. How could the blessing she gave be treated lightly? The meaning behind it was too great. Not to mention ordinary people, even if they disturbed the emperor under impossible circumstances and offered him the pearl, Li Longji would still have to give face to the Zhang and Wang families after knowing the meaning behind the pearl. Zhang family and Wang family had contributed a lot to the Tang Empire. In the future, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo grew up, they would make good use of the pearl. Of course, even if Chu Tu offended someone in the future, the other party wouldn't care who gave him the pearl. Chu Tu could use the pearl to make a deal with Zhang family and Wang family. As long as he didn't rebel, even if he committed a crime of beheading, they could protect him. However, they had to look at the situation before deciding whether to protect him. Wang Wan didn't believe that an honest person like Chu Tu would take the initiative to offend others. In order to build a better reputation for the 2 families, she asked Xiao Bei to send the pearl. The soldiers who followed Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan back were arranged to rest outside the city. Zhang Zhong was very happy. His son and daughter-in-law were back. The 2 of them were a little tanned, but they would recover after some rest. His heart was finally at ease. Hence, he took out the best wine and dishes at home to entertain the soldiers, merchants, and commoners who came to congratulate them. The people from the nearby villages also rushed down the mountain to celebrate with the soldiers. At the same time, they wanted to see how the warriors who fought in Tubo looked like and ask about the specific situation. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan chatted with their families for a while before finding a place to sleep. They were tired. Not only did they have to follow the troops to battle, but they also had to be responsible for formulating battle plans. They had to be firm. Xiao Bei and the rest of the children didn't know how to have their own house, and they didn't join in the fun. They gathered outside their brother and sister's house and got someone to wake them up to sleep. They were afraid that when they woke up, their brother and sister were gone. What should they do? They were still waiting to hear the story. Old Man Pai and the other two were also happy. They returned to their courtyard and started writing letters to be sent to the capital. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were back. Of course, they had to report the good news and give the imperial court some time to react. When the time came, they would be rewarded. They couldn't treat it as if nothing had happened, right? 3 days later, during the morning court session in the capital, Li Longji and the officials discussed one matter after another. Just as they were discussing the most important matter, the letter arrived. Li Longji attached great importance to the matter they were discussing. If they were to discuss the topic, it would be whether it was better to expand through military force or through commercial means when obtaining overseas resources. It was all because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had people find Luzon Island in the future. In the beginning, most people only thought that the island wasn't bad. It produced more grain and had copper and gold mines. However, as the merchants obtained more and more benefits from the island, they couldn't ignore it even if they didn't want to. In terms of enjoyment, the merchants brought back many good local specialties and made a huge profit. They were already selling them to the capital. In terms of the people's livelihood, the land there was not bad. The grain yield was high, and the crops could be harvested 3 times a year. In addition, the area was rich in resources, so even more people were tempted. If it was in the past, or in normal times, the imperial court wouldn't be able to control the transactions there. However, the ones who had the most say over there were the people from the Zhang family and Wang family. The Zhang family and Wang family were good. They weren't ambitious and knew when to advance and retreat. They didn't cause others to worry. More importantly, the Zhang family and Wang family were very capable. Any merchants who came to the island to make a fortune had to be monitored by the Zhang family and Wang family. The clever merchants thought of several ways to exploit loopholes, but they were useless under the watchful eyes of the Zhang family and Wang family. The officials couldn't help but admit that the Zhang family and Wang family were ancestors in this aspect. Although it seemed like a good method, it was embarrassing to use it on the Zhang family and Wang family. However, some time ago, news came back saying that as the natives came into contact more and more, they actually discovered many hostile tribes. This had to be dealt with. Thus, whether to solve this through military force or normal commercial means became a hot topic in the imperial court. In the end, everyone said that they were right, and everyone argued that they were right. It was very noisy. Li Longji listened from above. The more he listened, the more annoyed he became. He patted the armrest of a luxurious chair sent by the Zhang family and said, "If you really can't think of a solution, ask the Zhang family." The officials didn't know what to say for a moment. At this moment, Gao Lisher saw the hand gesture from his subordinate and said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, there's news from Wing Prefecture." Chapter 652. Nowadays, the imperial court in the capital had developed a habit. No matter what they were discussing, as long as the pigeons from Izhou flew over, they would interrupt the discussion and wait for Gao Lisher to bring back the news. In fact, if there was a war in other places, they would do the same. However, news from Izhou was transmitted faster and more frequently. Not only was there news from the front line, but there was also a series of things Zhang Zhong had done. Old Man Bai and Old Man Yao were like spies who had infiltrated the enemy. They brazenly collected information and analyzed it. If they did not understand something, they would ask Zhang Zhong. Once they were done sorting out the information, they would immediately send it to the capital via pigeons. They would let the people in the capital see what kind of information could be used in other regions. Of course, there were also things that couldn't be said. For example, The Zhang family didn't report the fact that they used dead people for research. The officials in the imperial court didn't need others to report it. They already knew about it and tacitly allowed the Zhang family to do it secretly. However, they definitely couldn't say it out loud. It would be troublesome if the people knew about it. In their hearts, they didn't want to stop it. After all, it wasn't their own family members who were used for research. If it was their turn to be injured one day, they wouldn't expect the medical school to save them. Now, 3 pigeons were sent at a time. Because 2 pigeons didn't arrive at the destination one time, there was a gap in the content of the next pigeon. The imperial court sent an urgent report from 800 Li to ask about it. It was unknown whether the 2 pigeons were tired of flying and found a place to settle down or were beaten up by something. Therefore, they added another pigeon to be safe. Li Longji stopped talking. Although the overseas expansion was important, it was far less important than Ezhou. As long as the Zhang family in Ezhou was there, they could ask his family about whether to use force or business to invade. Gao Lishir walked all the way back to the imperial court. Everyone could roughly guess from his expression. After losing news of Xiaobao, Cuckoo, and the army a few days ago, Gao Lishir's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. Today was different. Gao Lishir, who was already very handsome, became energetic. His eyebrows were raised and the corners of his mouth were raised. The officials understood that this was good news. Do you have news about Cuckoo and Xiaobao? Li Longji sat on top and asked calmly. If he did not take the initiative to ask, then he would be truly calm. Now that he had asked, it meant that his heart was not like what he showed. Gao Lishir nodded, but didn't say anything. It seemed that he hadn't recovered from his joy. A courtier beside him reminded him in a low voice, "General Gao, His Majesty is asking you a question." Oh, Your Majesty, good news, we won." Gao Lishir was surprised and quickly replied. Li Longji nodded and didn't say anything, waiting for Gao Lishir to continue. All the officials were also waiting. They didn't know which side would win. After all, the Jiannan faction was fighting 2 wars at the same time. One was military, and the other was economic. The military was more direct, and the economic was not bad either. "Your Majesty, there's a report from Wing Province. Under the command of Xiaobao, Jiannan's economic war has successfully defeated the Tubo Empire, swallowing all of the funds invested by the Tubo Empire. At the same time, the local merchants who cooperated with the Tubo Empire were implicated as well. The farmers have been able to earn some income, and the other commoners haven't suffered too much losses. The Zhang family is currently preparing to compensate the commoners who suffered from the high price of grain." When Gao Lishir reported the news to the crowd, an official by the side pouted and grumbled. "The Zhang family is just being kind. The commoners were the ones who went to buy the grain themselves, so why should they care about them? Don't they know that they are helping the Tubo Empire by buying the grain themselves?" As soon as he finished speaking, Gao Lishir immediately replied, "That's not right." Before the dust settled, how could the commoners know that Jiannan is in the midst of a war that can kill without seeing blood? Since we can't eliminate the Tubo Empire before the war, we have to take responsibility for the commoners. Indeed. Continue. Li Longji spoke up to help Gao Lishir. "Your Majesty, according to the data compiled by the Zhang family, the Tubo Empire and the merchants invested roughly 400,000 strings of cash to launch an economic war against Jiannan. Due to the leverage effect, the capital invested was increased by 5 times, and Jiannan City suffered a blow of nearly 2 million strings of cash. The Zhang family invested 25 strings of cash to create half of the Tubo Empire's leverage in the form of futures contracts. At the same time, through technology and public opinion, they managed to limit the amount of money invested by the Tubo Empire and the merchants to a small extent. Furthermore, they cooperated with the local merchants to solidify the reputation of the tricycles in the market. Using the excuse that the newly renovated roads were suitable for the tricycles, they launched a direct attack on the Tubo Empire's livestock acquisition method. The concrete operation plan will be sent to you later. This economic war is being commanded by Xiaobao from the Tubo Empire. When he returned, he said that he had too many regrets, that he wasn't able to control the situation as he wished. Gao Lisher tried his best to explain with a calm tone. As for the various terms, the officials in the royal court knew them, and they had no choice but to learn them. Li Longji nodded. Wei Wei nodded. He still didn't understand the details of the matter, and he would have to wait for the news to reach the capital. This was the first time he was witnessing what a true economic war was like, and he was certain that the situation wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. An official by the side suddenly asked, "General Gao, did the news mention where the money invested by the Tubo Empire and the merchants working with them went? A portion of it was taken by those with grain, but it can't be that they took 400,000 strings of cash, right? Also, where did the money spent by the local merchants go?" "That wasn't mentioned, but it should be taken by the Zhang family," Gao Lisher replied. "If the Zhang family took it, who would the money belong to in the end?" the official asked. The others couldn't help but have similar thoughts as well. Indeed, would the money belong to the Zhang family in the end? Wouldn't the Zhang family think that they would be able to reap benefits just by participating in an economic war? Wouldn't that make the Zhang family think that they could play around with it in the future? Gao Lisher didn't answer the question directly. Instead, he turned to Li Longji and said, "Your Majesty, Cuckoo has returned with a great victory. She launched a series of sneak attacks on the Tubo Empire's territory, burned countless Tubo rations, killed countless enemies, and annihilated the Tubo Empire's cavalrymen before returning from the snowy mountains. As for the details, we'll know once the battle report arrives." This sneak attack was also to coordinate with Xiaobao's economic war. Tubo is in a precarious situation this winter, and Xiaobao intends to use the excess rations in Jiannan to trade for cheap livestock in Tubo. The livestock will be used in Jiannan province's transportation and farming areas, and they will only be charged a small fee, which will be supplemented by the local medical hall in the future. The officials finally understood. The Zhang family had given the benefits to the entire Jiannan province, and the ones who received the money were the commoners and local officials. The Zhang family didn't ask for the money themselves. The official who asked the question earlier didn't know what to say. Similarly, Li Longji wasn't clear on the details of Wang Wan's battle, so he could only wait further news. That means to say that Tubo is currently lacking in rations, and the morale of their troops has been reduced to zero? They won't be able to invade the borders for the next few years. Officials, when will Zhang Zhong return, and where should we arrange for him? Also, how should we reward Cuckoo and Xiaobao? Li Longji pondered for a moment before asking the officials. This time, the royal court was in an uproar. There were all kinds of opinions. Some said that Wang Wan should be allowed to lead more troops to attack Tubo instead of using rations to trade for livestock. After all, wouldn't they be able to obtain livestock after conquering Tubo? Some said that Zhang Zhong should be allowed to return to the capital as an idle official. After all, he had too many matters to deal with, and he needed to rest for a while. In other words, they were saying that Zhang Zhong's reputation was growing more and more, and they should restrain him a little. There were also some who suggested that Zhang Zhong should continue to be the provincial governor of a province and arrange for Xiaobao and Cuckoo to be local officials. In short, there were all kinds of opinions, and some even suggested that Xiaobao participate in next year's imperial examinations. Because Zhang Zhong was the provincial governor, it wouldn't be a problem to give Xiaobao the position of high scholar, and they could save the trouble of taking the examinations. If possible, they would allow Xiaobao to be an official in the royal court. Li Longji was also considering this problem. Zhang Zhong's position was very simple to him. He just needed to arrange a place for him, and it wouldn't be a problem even if he had to go to the capital. The main thing was Xiaobao and Cuckoo. There was no need to mention the capabilities of the two of them. One of them was good at war, and even when Tubo's military strength was less than 4 times the enemy's, they could only use defensive measures. How arrogant was this? No one dared to oppose the arrangement of a general with real power. Xiao Bao didn't seem to have killed many Tubo soldiers directly, but in the economic war in Jiannan province, he was able to win so easily even when he was commanding from afar. He definitely wasn't bad in terms of economy, and he was able to predict the enemy's plans. He was able to defeat the person who was ranked 11th on the Monopoly game board that Tubo arranged. If they arranged for him to be the county magistrate, he would definitely be able to do a good job. Besides, he also had the help of his family. However, the two children were really too young. According to the rules, once they were assigned a position, they couldn't be in the same place as their family. He didn't know if they were willing or not. If they weren't willing, he couldn't do anything to the two children. During the debate, time passed quickly, and it was already past the usual morning court session. If they continued to debate like this, they probably wouldn't be able to eat their meals. Gao Lishir didn't participate in the debate. He was thinking about when he could meet Xiao Bao and Cuckoo in person and let Xiao Bao be his adopted son. He was worried that Xiao Bao wouldn't accept. After waiting for a while, seeing that the debate still hadn't reached a conclusion, Gao Lishir moved closer to Li Longji and quietly said, "Your Majesty, why don't we wait until after the new year to ask Zhang Zhong's family and see what they plan to do? There's one more thing. Give the Zhang family some benefits." The Zhang family asked for land in Jiannan province or Hebei province. We should think about this. Should we give it to them or not? Give. If we don't give, how can we be at ease? But I heard that the Zhang family actually doesn't intend to give them land in Jiannan province. They want to go to Hebei province, but I don't want to give them land in Hebei province. They want to raise horses, and Hebei province is too close to the sea. Their sea transportation is also very big. What should we do? Li Longji thought of the news that came last time. The Zhang family wanted a place to raise horses, and they also wanted a desert. The desert was easy to deal with because it wasn't Tang's land. The Zhang family also specially trained people who could adapt to the cold on the snowy mountains, which meant that they wanted to go to Hebei province. This was difficult. He couldn't use people so casually, otherwise it would easily lead to a big mistake. Gao Lishir didn't know what to say. The main thing was that he didn't understand the Zhang family's plan. Why did they want to go to Hebei province? Li Longji didn't insist on Gao Lishir's idea. He just said casually. After thinking about it, he said, "Since they want to raise horses, let's arrange for them to go to Feng province. It's closer to the capital than Hebei province, and it's not close to the sea. The population is small, so even if the Zhang family wants to do something, they can't do it. What do you think?" Gao Lishir nodded. In fact, he didn't want to let the Zhang family get a land there, which would make the imperial court too stingy. If there was a heavy snowfall, the road would be blocked, and it would be inconvenient to communicate with here. Even if the Zhang family sent people there, the news would be blocked. When the emperor said so, it meant that he had almost made a decision. Gao Lishir's objection didn't have much effect. Besides, the Zhang family had the ability to make money. They didn't lack a slightly bad place. Xiao Bao and the others wouldn't go to Feng province in person. Li Longji seemed to feel that it was a little bad, so he said, "You can give him a land in Feng province." At this time, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were still telling stories to the little ones at home in Izhou. They told the stories of the battlefield in Tubo, as if they were fairy tales. They didn't know that there was already a fierce fight in the capital over their family's matter. They also didn't know that before the follow-up measures were used, Li Longji had already arranged the land in Feng province according to their plan. On this day, the army of the Tang Dynasty came to the desert. There was a lot of sand in the desert, and it didn't hurt at all when you fell on it. Unlike other deserts, there was a lake in the desert. The lake water was clear and blue, and there were big shells in the lake. When the Tang army arrived in the desert, there was no water, so they drank from the lake. When there was no food, they picked shells in the lake. However, the lake water was very deep. Some people in the Tang army didn't know how to swim, so they could only watch others pick shells to eat. They were anxious at the side. Zhang Xiaobao told the little ones about the desert. He tried his best to remove the bloody places and focused on describing the scenery. Then wouldn't it be fine if the people who knew how to swim picked up shells and gave them to the people who didn't know how to swim? Hearing this, Xiao Bei expressed his thoughts. Xiao Bei is really smart. As Xiao Bei said, the people who knew how to swim helped the people who didn't know how to swim. In the end, everyone was full. When they were eating, they found beautiful pearls in the shells. They didn't secretly hide them. Instead, they gave them to Sister Cuckoo, and Sister Cuckoo kept them. She kept them and brought them back for us. I know. When I swim in the desert in the future, I will also find pearls for them. Xiao Bei's reaction was very fast. He immediately knew who the pearls belonged to. When he spoke, he even made a swimming action. The other little ones also clamored to swim in the desert. They also knew how to swim. Usually, when the weather was hot, they played in the water and had long learned how to swim. All of them were good swimmers. Even if there were some man-made waves, they wouldn't drown. Yes, Xiao Bei is right. In the future, when you swim in the desert, not in the desert, but in the desert lake, remember to pick up shells. These shells, after a long time, people will come out of them. Let's see who can find them. Zhang Xiaobao was exhausted from telling stories. When telling stories to the little ones, he had to adjust his mentality to the level of a little one. He had to let himself see the world from the perspective of a little one. Otherwise, the little ones wouldn't understand. Xiao Bei nodded vigorously and asked, "What happened after that?" Then, a big fish came out of the lake. It wanted to eat the person who picked the shells. You saw the big fish, right? The big fish in the water are very powerful. Such a big fish, even if I went in, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. I could only run. If I ran too slow, I would be eaten by the big fish. Zhang Xiaobao casually gestured the length of the fish. The group of little ones nodded. They did see the dried fish that they brought back. The biggest one was more than 5 feet long. It was frightening. Then what happened? Xiao Zhu asked worriedly. Then what are we? We are the invincible Tang army. If one person couldn't beat it, 2 people would go. If 2 people couldn't beat it, 10 people would go. In the end, more than 200 of us rushed up. When the big fish saw that it was not good, it wanted to run away. Guess, did it run away? Zhang Xiaobao said with a mighty look. No. The little ones shook their heads. Yes, it didn't run away. More than 200 of us surrounded it. Someone said to the big fish that it was wrong. We just wanted to eat some shells. If it rushed out and hurt us, we would eat it. So everyone rushed up and killed the big fish that was not convinced. We were not willing to eat the meat and left it for you. When Zhang Xiaobao was telling the story, he waved his fists and kicked to make the story more vivid. In fact, 200 people were not needed at all. 4 people of the protection team went down and pierced through the fish. It didn't take long for the fish to float up. The little ones didn't know how powerful their family's number 0 protection team was. They really thought that their brother and sister mobilized 200 people for a fish. Xiao Bei pursed his lips and said, "The big fish was too bad. It didn't let me eat. Serves it right. I ate it. Then what happened? How did I hide? Then, didn't we kill the big fish later? We found that the lake was very big. So we let those who didn't know how to swim learn how to swim. We swam in the water to avoid the Tubo scouts. As for me, in order to see where the Tubo people were, I let the water cloud take me to the sky. I flew in the sky, and when there was a chance, I let you all fly once. I flew to the blue sky and was with the white cloud. The white cloud turned into a little lamb and wanted to play with me. The next moment, it turned into a steamed bun for me to eat. At that time, I wanted to bring some back for you, but I could only eat and couldn't take. So little young master, little miss, the Tubo people came. They said that they agreed to exchange livestock for food. They want us to discuss the price with them. A person came from outside the courtyard and reported to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Wang Wan was watching Zhang Xiaobao make up a story. When she heard that the Tubo people came, she said to the person, "Tell the Tubo people to wait. Xiaobao and I will go and talk to them." We are busy telling stories to our younger brothers and sisters. They don't know what's important. Xiao Bao continue. Why didn't you bring back the steamed bun? Xiao Bei and the others also thought that the Tubo people didn't know what was important. They were listening to stories. Zhang Xiaobao also thought so. Telling stories to their younger brothers and sisters was a big matter. The Tubo people asked them to wait. They couldn't delay the important matter. He continued, Then I asked White Cloud, how can I let my younger brothers and sisters eat it? White Cloud told me a way to make cotton candy. I will make it for you all later. The little ones couldn't help but stick out their tongues and lick their lips. After waiting for a while, they followed their older brother and sister to make cotton candy. They found a craftsman to assemble the equipment. It was very simple. They just needed to heat and rotate it. Then they put sugar into the box with holes that could produce centrifugal force. They took a pair of chopsticks and caught it. After a while, a big cotton candy came out. After the little ones ate one by one, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan took a few more cotton candy to meet the Tubo people. The Tubo people sent over was a person from the Kimu tribe who was relatively knowledgeable about economics. His name was Kimu Jiji. He was a cautious person and usually didn't show his abilities. He was the leader of the negotiations. One was to talk about war, and the other was to talk about exchanging livestock for food. However, when he told others, he only talked about exchanging livestock and didn't talk about war. The Tubo people who came with him didn't understand why he did this. They arrived at Ijo the day before yesterday. Ever since they knew that Cuckoo came back after crossing the snow, the Tubo troops outside the pass all retreated. They couldn't afford to waste more food. Zhang Zhong stole some of the rations, and Wang Wan burned a portion of the rations. Most of the rations were used on the march. In order to capture Wang Wan, the Tubo army had mobilized too many soldiers. The rations were constantly being depleted. If they didn't think of a solution soon, many people would starve to death this winter. They would only be able to replenish their rations during spring. Kimu Jiji could speak the language of the Great Tang very fluently. He also studied the culture of the Great Tang. After arriving here, he didn't rush to meet the negotiators. Instead, he asked for a meeting after gathering a lot of information from the local people and made preparations. He thought that the Great Tang would send a large team to negotiate with him. There would be many experienced people in the team. However, after he revealed his identity, the reaction of the people in Ijo was too cold. They didn't take him seriously at all. After all, he was representing a country. After waiting for 2 hours, someone sent a message saying that the people negotiating with him were Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who entered Tubo this time. However, the two of them were busy with very important business. They told stories to their younger siblings and asked them to wait for a while. They would talk after they finished. Some of the people Kimu Jiji brought were unwilling. They shouted to express their protest and even threatened to send troops if they didn't come to Tubo. However, they were stopped by Kimu Jiji. Although he was also very angry in his heart, he didn't dare to let his subordinates completely say that they were going to send troops. If the other party was unhappy and didn't want to talk, then this trip would be in vain. This time, not only was he going to exchange the food back, he also had another plan. After waiting for another 3.5 hours, it was already past lunchtime. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who had finished telling stories to the little ones and made cotton candy, came over with the cotton candy. When the two of them came over, they only brought the 2 servant girls who accompanied them and the old man Pai who was already sitting there silently. They didn't bring any more guards. There were 7 people from Tubo, led by Kimu Jiji. When they saw that the 2 people who came in were the 2 children who messed up their country, some of them wanted to kill the little girl right away. However, when this person's murderous gaze met with Cuckoo's eyes, he immediately retracted his gaze. At this time, Cuckoo no longer had the doting expression she had when she was playing with her younger siblings. There was a cold smile at the corner of her mouth, her pupils contracted, and her cute face revealed a layer of coldness. Her gloomy expression was even more severe than a rainy day. Zhang Xiaobao, on the other hand, was facing the Tubo people from the side. He stood in front of Wang Wan and squinted his eyes. When he saw the unfriendly gazes from the other side, he chuckled and said, "Heh, what? You want to kill all of us here? I'll warn you, if you show that kind of expression again, I'll bury you in the Tang Empire. Just with you guys? I'm not looking down on you guys, but you guys are really not worthy of my attention. Killing you guys now is as easy as crushing an ant. If you're not convinced, look at me again." Xiaobao, don't scare them. We've already beaten them up like that, so it's not right to scare them anymore. Give them some face. Grandpa, by Grandpa Zhang, Grandpa Yao, you guys are here too. That's great. I'll give you guys some cotton candy. I made it especially for Xiao Bei and the rest just now. Wang Wan also attacked the confidence of the Tubo people. Her attitude clearly showed that she did not put the 7 people from Tubo in her eyes. She walked in front of Old Man Pai and the other 2 and passed the cotton candy to them. Old Man Pai also cooperated and took it. He asked, "Are Xiao Bei and the rest asleep?" "They're going to sleep immediately. Otherwise, Xiao Bao and I won't have time to care about other small matters. It's just some people from Tubo dying. How can it be more important than Xiao Bei and the rest being happy?" Wang Wan answered with a smile. Then her expression changed. She turned around and passed the extra cotton candy in her hand to Kumu Gigi. "This is for you. Try the good things from Tang Empire. Go back and talk about it. Let your Tubo people know about it." Kumu Gigi looked at Wang Wan and held back the anger in his heart. He took the cotton candy and squeezed out a smile. "When I go to Tubo to greet General Cuckoo's family, I'll definitely try the good things from Tang Empire. Not bad. I'm very satisfied with your attitude. Now, you can tell me why you guys are here." Wang Wan sat down on the chair Zhang Xiaobao pulled out. She licked the cotton candy in her hand and smacked her lips. Then she said to Kumu Gigi, if the 6 people behind Kumu Gigi had not been warned by Zhang Xiaobao's words just now, they would have rushed up and used force to regain their dignity. Kumu Gigi took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He said, "This time, I have 2 things to say. First, that is... Wait, you haven't told me your name. Tell me first. Tubo won't send a nameless person here, right?" Before Kumu Gigi finished, Wang Wan interrupted him and asked, "I'm Kumu Gigi." Kumu Gigi's brewing mood disappeared again. "Oh, it's you. Are you with Kumu Kahu? Your names are similar. He was defeated by me. Fortunately, he didn't come. Otherwise, I would ask him if he still dares to come." Wang Wan continued. Kumu Gigi's hands under the table clenched into fists. Then he loosened them and nodded. "We are from the same unit. But names have nothing to do with each other. The war is over. Let's not talk about the battlefield. I have 2 things to talk about. First, that is the situation of the war. I, Tubo, want to ask if the Tang Empire is willing to maintain the relationship between the 2 countries. Wait a minute. You are contradicting yourself. You just said that the war is over. If you don't talk about the battlefield, why are you asking about the situation of the war? By the way, what's your name again? I was thinking about how to make the cotton candy more delicious and forgot. Please say it again. Sorry." Wang Wan said to Kumu Gigi apologetically. "My name is Kumu Gigi. I said the situation of the war because we are not on the battlefield now. I want to know the Tang Empire you represent. You and Kumu Ku, who are not biological brothers, right? It looks very similar. You're not lying to me?" Wang Wan once again interrupted Kumu Gigi. "Can't you guys continue the negotiations? If you don't want to talk, we will go back and come back with the army." One of Kumu Gigi's men couldn't help but stare at her and ask. Wang Wan looked at him contemptuously and nodded. "Okay, Tubo, you are welcome to come and talk with me. I am going to go to war again and ask you about the art of war. But this time, I won't come with less than 10,000 light cavalry. I will mobilize all the soldiers of Jiannan Circuit and send them to Tubo. Please, I won't see you off." Kumu Gigi knew that he was in trouble when he heard his men's words. Sure enough, Wang Wan's reaction was too strong. He hurriedly scolded his men. "Shut up. Otherwise, I will report this to my superiors when we go back." Kumujiji was furious. Why couldn't the men he brought bear it? Why did they say that they would send troops to Masha? Were they afraid of this? The people beside him also knew that they made a mistake. They lowered their heads and didn't say anything. Kumujiji turned back and said to Wang Wan, "Don't take what I said just now to heart. To be honest, Tubo doesn't want to fight anymore. After all, this year isn't that good. What I want to say is, can the great Tang have a truce with Tubo and compensate for Tubo's losses? Do you have any shame? Why should we compensate Tubo? Even if you don't want to fight, I still want to fight. I still don't have enough fun killing people. In the past, you always used the tone of a victor when invading the border. You still want to do that this year? Then I will fight until Tubo gives up. If you don't believe me, we can try. I will immediately mobilize the army. I am going to send out 100,000 soldiers. Let's see how many people Tubo will send to encircle us. You don't want to fight anymore? Sure, you have to admit your mistake first. You shouldn't have harmed the people of Wangjiang. You have to compensate for the losses of Shuzhou and Wangjiang. As for the exact amount of compensation, we will talk about it after Xiao Bao calculates it. Second, compensate for the losses of the great Tang in this war, including the little tricks you guys played behind the scenes and the self-righteous economic war. You have to compensate for both. As for the exact amount, we will talk about it after Xiao Bao calculates it. Third, send more of your princesses to the great Tang. Marry them to us to show your sincerity. Send 3 of them first. Do you have 3 of them? It won't do if there are too few of them. We have to think of something. Fourth, hand over the main culprit who supported this war. I don't care who you push the blame to. You have to hand over one of them and let the great Tang conduct a public trial. That's all I have to say about the war. If you don't agree, I will immediately send troops. Also, the few of you have to stay behind. Don't think of going back. I am like this and don't dare to do things by the rules. Do you have anything to add? Wang Wan's attitude was very firm. It was to the extent that she was bullying them. The 7 people from Tubo all stared at Wang Wan with their eyes wide open. They didn't expect this lass to be so belligerent. She wanted to start a fight at the slightest disagreement. If it wasn't for the fact that she was famous in Tubo, they would have thought that she was joking. But it wasn't the case now. If she really had such capabilities, when she sent out 100,000 troops, how many Tubo troops would be able to contend against her? After hearing Wang Wan's words, Kumujiji was worried sick. This little girl was indeed not easy to talk to. She would say whatever she thought and didn't care about reason at all. But this little girl was different from other children. She really had the ability to lead troops to war and even win. Thinking of this, Kumujiji said to Wang Wan, "We can talk about it slowly. There's no need to rush. I don't have the authority to decide on this matter. Why don't we wait and talk about another matter first?" "Okay, I'm not in a hurry. Xiao Bei and the rest should be asleep already. I will talk with you for a while and won't delay telling them stories. If we can't finish talking about the war today, we will talk about it tomorrow. If we can't finish talking about it tomorrow, we will continue to postpone it until spring. I will also take a break. If the wild vegetables come out in spring and we still haven't finished talking about it, I will lead the troops to talk to the people who can really talk to you. When we reach your capital city, I think everyone will know what to talk about. When the wild vegetables come out, Xiao Bao, what do you think?" Wang Wan pinched a piece of cotton candy and threw it into her mouth. She smacked her lips and said to Kumujiji. In the end, she asked Zhang Xiaobao a question. Zhang Xiaobao was calculating how much compensation he would need from the other side. If they won the war and didn't earn a sum of money from the war, wouldn't it be a loss? It was not in line with his and Cuckoo's style of doing things. Hearing Wang Wan's question, he said, "I'm not in a hurry. Really, I'm not in a hurry at all. Anyway, we have enough food this year, and we don't lack animals. Let's drag it out until spring next year. That's the time when we don't have enough food. Cuckoo, you fight on your own. Don't worry about not having enough food. I will prepare for you from other places. We have a clear division of labor. I will be in charge of logistics, and you will be in charge of killing. As long as you dare to kill, I will guarantee that you will have no worries. You are my future wife. How can I let my wife suffer? Come, give me a kiss. Zhang Xiaobao said and moved his face closer. Wang Wan smiled sweetly and really kissed Zhang Xiaobao's face. Xiaobao, I know you are the best. You know me, and you know that I like to kill people. In the future, when I want to hit people, you have to do the same. Okay, if I don't help my wife, who else can I help? Give me another kiss. Zhang Xiaobao replied. Just when Kumu Jiji and the others were angry, Old Man Chong finally couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expect Xiaobao and Cuckoo to be so interesting. The two countries were negotiating, not at home. Even if they were at home, he didn't see the two children kissing each other. What did they think this place was? What did they think Tubo was? Kumu Jiji had to admit that the two children in front of him were very compatible. But the problem was that this wasn't a place to flirt. Thus he said, Cuckoo and Xiaobao are indeed a pair of beauties. Let's talk about exchanging Tubo's livestock for Tang's food first. Thank you for the compliment. Wang Wan smiled and thanked him. We are talking about exchanging things. I can't make this decision. Xiaobao, it's your turn. Don't calculate, they are not prepared to talk about war compensation now. Zhang Xiaobao pushed the big abacus aside and nodded. Okay, I will do it. That. Kumu Jiji, right? How do you want to exchange? How about this? I will tell you my conditions first, and let you take the initiative. What do you think? Kumu Jiji slapped his head. He was going crazy. Why did he have to deal with these two during the negotiation? Take the initiative? When did he ever take the initiative? Since they brought it up and said it first, then he should say it. Kumu Jiji signaled Zhang Xiaobao to speak. Zhang Xiaobao pretended to be excited. He rubbed his hands and his eyes lit up. He coughed and said, because you Tubo stirred up trouble behind the scenes. The economy of our Jiannan circuit was almost destroyed and the entire financial system was damaged. Therefore, in the spirit of pacifism, we resolutely decided to help our neighbor despite the instability of our financial system. But we really can't take out too much food. For example, we don't have any rice. For example, we don't have any wheat. We can only provide you with corn. Before coming here, I believe you have already understood many things. Even if you don't, it's fine. Let me tell you, because you have controlled the price of food in our Jiannan circuit, our days are not good. In addition, you have also attacked the livestock industry at the same time, causing the livestock in our Jiannan circuit to reach the point of not having enough to eat. Most of the corn will be fed to the livestock, and the rest will be given to you. A bushel of corn is 50 copper coins. How about exchanging livestock for it? Kumu Jiji and the others were dumbfounded. These words coming from the mouth of a child made them feel very ridiculous. But this child was also very unreasonable. With such an excuse and such a price, he still scolded them. Did he have no shame? What kind of corn could cost 50 copper coins a bushel? Could it be eaten by the emperor in the capital? The people behind Kumu Jiji wanted to refute, but they were stopped by Kumu Jiji. He had his own ideas. He said, to be honest, 50 copper coins is really expensive. But since you also don't have it easy, then we'll go with this price. Because of the war, our Tubo's food and fodder are also a lot less. It's not easy to raise livestock. A donkey, even if it's 15 copper coins, a horse pulling a carriage, even if it's 20 copper coins. How about it? So cheap? A donkey and an ordinary horse pulling a carriage only cost this much? Zhang Xiaobao asked in surprise. Yes. Kumu Jiji responded with a smile. Zhang Xiaobao said with a sad expression, it's cheap, but it's a pity that the livestock we originally planned to exchange for isn't for work. We already have a tricycle, so we want to kill them for meat. If it's really this price, then it's better to get meat from elsewhere. We can't afford to raise them. Livestock eat too much. Since it's like this, we'll use the extra corn to exchange for livestock in our country. You wait for 2 months. If we still have some left, then we'll give it to you for free. We can't let your people starve to death. Zhang Xiaobao's words were very helpless, but the meaning he expressed was not helpless at all. That was, he was not exchanging, and he very tactfully refused. Komu Jiji, who thought that the other party would bargain, and when the time came, he would also bargain. At this time, he was dumbfounded. The other party actually directly refused. The 2 maids who were in charge of pouring tea at the side resisted the urge to laugh. They looked at Komu Jiji and the others with eyes full of pity. They thought in their hearts, you guys can't negotiate with anyone, but you have to meet the young master and young lady. You guys can't use the method you thought of previously, right? Old Man Pai and the other 2 were very comfortable at the side. They originally thought that this negotiation would be very difficult, because Tubo had negotiated with Tang many times before, and every time, they could not achieve better results. Sometimes, they would show a strong attitude, but the other party would not compromise at all. The main reason was that both sides were adults, and they knew that war was not a child's play. If they could make peace, then they would. Unless they were confident, then they would take the risk of threatening with war. Unexpectedly, when it was 2 children, the other party was helpless. Children were not like adults, who thought about many things. If they felt that something was right, they would do it according to their own ideas. If an adult threatened to send troops, the Tubo people would not believe it. However, if Cuckoo said to send troops, there was absolutely nothing to doubt. This was because she did not consider other things at all, and did not consider the internal situation of the country. She just wanted to fight. Amazing, this was really too amazing. The 3 old men had this thought in their minds at the same time. They did not think that Cuckoo and Xiao Bao did not know the price of war. However, the 2 children clearly knew in their hearts, but they still used the advantage of their age to put pressure on the Tubo people, and the effect was so good. However, how would Mu Jiji know the ability of Cuckoo and Xiao Bao? He was indeed frightened. The 2 children were really easy to do things, so he asked tentatively, "Then how much do you think it should be to eat meat?" Eat meat? Eating meat is not that expensive, and it's not like you have to eat donkeys and horses. Do you have cows? If you have cows, the price will be more expensive. A normal cow can be sold to you for 15 strings of coins. After all, the cows of Tang Dynasty are not that delicious, and the imperial court is in charge of them. If it's a donkey or an ordinary horse, it's useless. We can use poultry as a substitute. Our family does this, so it's very easy to raise them. If we sell a chicken at my farmstead, it's worth 20 copper coins and weighs about 10 caddies. 1 caddy is only 2 copper coins. How heavy can a donkey be? I'll give you more, 200 caddies. That is 400 copper coins. How heavy can a horse be? I'll give you 400 caddies, and I'll give you 600 caddies for a cow. Isn't this the price? A donkey is basically 400 copper coins, a horse is 800 copper coins, and a cow is 1,200 copper coins. This is also an extra 200 copper coins. This is still an extra calculation. How about it? Do you want to exchange? When the time comes, the exact weight will have to be weighed. Of course, there is one more thing, and I have to compensate you. After all, when you ship it here, sometimes the weight will be reduced. Based on our friendship, I am willing to pay you this money. A copper coin for a caddy is not a small amount, right? Zhang Xiaobao gave such a price. Using the price of a chicken, the price of livestock was based on the weight. In Zhangji Zhuangzi of Sanshui County, the internal price of a cow could be sold for 20 copper coins. That was a lot. Who would buy someone else's cow for no reason? How is this possible? That is a donkey and a cow. Not to mention the use, even the taste is different. Komu Jiji argued. He definitely could not sell it at such a price. How is the taste different? Indeed, it is not as delicious as chicken. My family's smoked chicken and roasted chicken are not ordinary things. That taste, I will treat you to a taste later. As long as you can make the taste of donkey and cow to such a degree, I will give you a higher price. Zhang Xiaobao also retorted. Kumu Jiji and the other 7 people had already tasted it. In Izhou, there was a shop that specialized in smoking and roasting chicken. He did not know what was added, but the taste was really good, especially the pine bone chicken. When he grabbed a leg and shook it slightly, the meat would fall off. However, this was not because the chicken was really delicious. It was because the method used to make it was different. The seasonings used were also different. Even if it was livestock, if the same method was used, the taste would only be better. Kumu Jiji knew clearly in his heart, but he could not say it. He knew that once he said it, the other party would have a reason to lower the price. First, the other party would raise the price of his livestock. Then, they would talk about the cost of production. In the end, it might even be lower than the current price. In a negotiation, one naturally had to pay attention to the method. However, Kumu Jiji immediately put this matter aside and said to Wang Wan, "The price is too low. Let's talk about the war. How about this? Tubo will compensate Zhang Xiaobao's family 100,000 strings of coins and give Tang 50,000 strings of coins. Then, Tang will no longer send troops to Tubo." "That won't do. It's too little. You have to compensate my family 200,000 strings of coins and compensate my soldiers 100,000 strings of coins. Otherwise, Tang will continue to fight." Wang Wan shook her head and refused Kumu Jiji. She stated her conditions. It did not sound like much. In total, it was only 300,000 strings of coins. For Tubo, 300,000 strings of coins could be easily taken out, but Kumu Jiji's purpose was not this. He asked Wang Wan again, "Then we will forget about what you said? When Tubo really pays the money, you can't go back on your words. Write a written agreement." "Okay, Xiaobao, write it." Wang Wan agreed without any hesitation. Zhang Xiaobao wrote a contract. The contents were what Wang Wan said. There were 2 copies, and both parties pressed their fingerprints. Kumu Jiji happily put it away, just as he was about to not mention the second matter and leave to carry out the next step of the plan. Wang Wan smiled at him and said, "Kumu Jiji, it's written on the contract." "But Mu Jiji, it's already written on the agreement. Within a month, Tubo has to send the item over. It has to reach 300,000 strings of coins. I have the agreement in my hands. If you dare to lie to me, if I don't organize an army of 300,000 to slaughter Tubo, I will hang myself at the entrance of Pengzhou. I promise to support you. Even if I have to sell all the businesses in my family, I will raise enough money for you to attack Tubo. At most, I will kill all the Tubo people and find another profitable business for my family. If I can't do it, I will hang myself there with you." Zhang Xiaobao supported her and said. When the 2 of them said this, Kumu Jiji's 7 people, including Old Man Pai and the other 2 people, were all moved. Their words were too ruthless. They were using their lives as a bet to threaten the other party to see if they would send troops. Kumu Jiji smiled awkwardly and said, "You don't have to do this, right?" "Yes, I will do what I say. Just like when I entered Tubo and killed tens of thousands of your people. My words are final. No one can change them." Wang Wan stared into Kumu Jiji's eyes and said word by word, "Okay, I will definitely give you 300,000 strings of coins. I will send it over within a month." Kumu Jiji didn't dare to doubt this little girl's determination. She was so big that she could do anything. As soon as Kumu Jiji agreed, Wang Wan smiled and turned to Old Man Pai and said, "Grandpa Bai, quickly go to the capital and send a letter. Tell them that I have made the decision for the imperial court. When the time comes, all 200,000 strings of coins will be given to the imperial court. My family doesn't want a single coin." Old Man Pai nodded with a smile and said to Wang Wan, "Cuckoo, you don't have to do this. Even if your family keeps all 300,000 strings of coins, the imperial court won't say anything. The emperor is a famous monarch. The portraits of you and Xiaobao are pasted in the emperor's study. When you see the emperor, make some good food for the emperor. Even if you immediately mobilize all the soldiers in Jiannan Circuit, the emperor will still happily agree. You may not know this, but when you are leading the soldiers outside, the imperial court is waiting for news of your return every day. Even when the imperial court has stopped discussing matters, they still have to take care of the news from Izhou first. Yes, that's right. Cuckoo, you don't know how many people like you and Xiaobao. If you agree, so be it. So what if you represent the imperial court? No one will punish you. Old man Yao also helped to say. Wang Wan revealed a brilliant smile. She turned to the dumbfounded Kumujiji and said, "Did you hear that? Hurry up and give me the money. You want to play tricks with me? You are still too inexperienced." Who am I? I am a little girl who will lower themselves to the same level as a little girl. Kumujiji stared blankly at Wang Wan. He was too surprised. He was surprised by the imperial court's indulgence of Wang Wan. He was also surprised by Wang Wan's intelligence. She actually knew what he was going to do next. Yes, he wanted to sow discord through this negotiation so that the emperor of the Tang Empire would no longer believe in Wang Wan. He even wanted to punish the Zhang family and the Wang family. If he could make the Zhang family and the Wang family hate him and leave the Tang Empire, that would be even better. But what he didn't expect was that his plan was seen through as soon as it started. The news he got from the other two was unbelievable. The imperial court of the Tang Empire had already recognized Cuckoo and Xiaobao. According to this, he had to give them the 300,000 strings of coins. If he didn't give them the money, Cuckoo would promise to send troops. If he was in her position, he would do the same. While Kumujiji was thinking about this, Wang Wan, who had finished eating the cotton candy, yawned and said, "Let's call it a day. You send the letter back and ask. Tomorrow we will discuss the matter of exchanging livestock for food." After that, Wang Wan got up and left. Zhang Xiaobao followed her. Old Man Pai and the other two also left. Only 2 maids were responsible for arranging a place for Kumujiji and the 7 people to rest. The money for the rest was free. The Zhang family and the Wang family would bear it themselves. After Kumujiji returned to the place that the Zhang family arranged for him, he began to prepare the letter. After dipping the brush in ink, he suddenly didn't know what to write. Should he write that he failed in the negotiation and was schemed against by the other party when he was scheming against them, causing Tubo to lose 300,000 strings of coins? In the past, when he was complaining about the Japanese invaders, he didn't say that he would compensate the Tang Empire even if they were defeated. Today, he had to give such a result? It was too late to regret. The handprint was already on the letter. If he didn't give the money, Tubo would be attacked by the Tang Empire's army this winter. Moreover, Cuckoo would be the one leading the army. After thinking for a while, Kumujiji felt that he had made a mistake. He sighed helplessly and began to write on the paper. The other 6 people who followed him here waited obediently at the side. Today, they had seen how difficult the negotiation was. Cuckoo and Xiaobao didn't care about anything else. As long as they thought of something, they would immediately say it. They were even willing to sell all of their properties for money to attack the Tang Empire. They had never seen or even heard of such opponents before. However, the imperial court might admit that they were unlucky. They were really unlucky today. The person who looked at Wang Wan murderously at the beginning muttered, "If we had known, we would have killed the 2 of them. As long as they don't lead the army, why should we be afraid of them, even if we die in the end?" At this moment, Kumujiji, who had finished writing the letter, vented his anger on the person who spoke. "Then why didn't you do anything just now? Don't be so scared that you shrank back. Now, you still dare to talk about this matter? Kill. Do you really think that the 2 of them are so easy to kill? There's no need for you to do anything. If you had looked at them one more time, you would have been dead by now. They don't care about the matter of not killing the envoys when 2 countries are at war." Kumujiji always felt that he was in danger when he sat opposite Cuckoo. He didn't know where the danger came from, but he didn't dare to do anything casually. after scolding the person who followed him, he began to think about how to exchange the livestock of Tubo for more food. Otherwise, many people would starve to death this winter. At that time, the Tang Empire would take advantage of a lack of manpower to send troops again. Tubo wouldn't have the strength to fight back. The person who was scolded didn't say anything. Kumu Jiji said something that he didn't want to mention. At that time, when he was stared at by Zhang Xiaobao, he felt that his soul was about to leave. It was as if he would be killed in the next moment. The other 5 people also became silent. They were very helpless about the result of today's negotiation. They couldn't help much and couldn't show the Tubo's imposing manner. The other party kept saying that they would send troops. What imposing manner was there to speak of? After Kumu Jiji sent the letter away, he felt as if he had just been fished out of the water. His clothes were drenched in sweat. Chapter 653. Let's not talk about giving you 100,000 soldiers. If you go out now and only bring 100 people with you, do you think Tubo will immediately mobilize the entire country? Just based on your reputation, you can make the Tubo Empire mobilize 50,000 soldiers for you. In fact, Zhang Xiaobao knew that Wang Wan had thought it through. If Wang Wan didn't say it herself, then he would say it himself. He would praise her and make her happy. Sure enough, Wang Wan was happy. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Actually, you're not bad. When everyone looks at you now, they only think that you've won the economic war. They don't know that a real strategist, even in the financial field, will not admit that winning the other party in their own country is a victory. How can a person like you be willing to defend passively?" It was Zhang Xiaobao, Mi Fan, and the rest who took action with your plan. This time, if they don't cause Tubo's economy to regress by 10 years, I don't believe you will be satisfied. I estimate that within a month after spring plowing, your plan will be able to produce results that will make people stop. I am also looking forward to that moment. Don't talk nonsense. I've never thought of invading other people. I just sent people over to help the local economy develop. As for what mistakes there were, that's because I didn't consider them. But my intentions were good, so you can't deny it. Didn't Grandpa buy, and the others want to see what the advanced style was? Great Tang doesn't have a chance, but Tubo can. I will set up a bank in Tubo and start investing. I will let that so-called expert in Tubo know how much leverage can be used in finance. So what if it's Tubo? 100 years ago, someone had shaken up the British financial system. I've never thought that I'm worse than him. Since we can't fight in the same era, I'll fulfill my dream here. Zhang Xiaobao said with regret. He really wanted to compete with the experts of the past, but in the era he lived in, there was no such situation. Everyone learned and became smarter, and the economic structure became more and more stable. This stability was not a fixed pattern, but a flowing pattern. The people of the world finally realized that the economic aspect was the same as the aspect of war. There was no fixed pattern, but when all the methods were used, it was not easy to succeed. Otherwise, how could he have swindled so little money? Although for many people in the world, that amount of money was already shocking. He was not satisfied. If he wanted to complete the things he wanted to build in his country, he still needed a lot more. Wang Wan laughed twice. She held Zhang Xiaobao's shoulder and said to him, "You are too bad. You went to other countries to make trouble. It's not that the Tubo masters don't understand the principle of leverage. It's just that you didn't give them a chance. When they wanted to touch salt, which is the most important thing to the people's livelihood, you guarded it so strictly. When the other party finally managed to generate several times the leverage in terms of food and livestock through the bank, you immediately used irregular means to offset it. You used 250,000 strings of cash to fight against an opponent with 400,000 strings of cash, and swallowed all the money invested by the opponent. How can you still say such things? Zhang Xiaobao sighed. It's not that I want to deal with him, but he's gone too far. Besides, why should I treat him as an opponent? Look at the way he operates. Is that how he uses financial leverage? Needless to say, if you weren't busy with the war at that time, you would have dealt with him. He didn't even secretly set up a plan. So how could he make a move on everything related to the people's livelihood at the same time? Why didn't he hide in secret first? He really thought that the great Tang was his people. He didn't take, in the early stage, and put on a strong offensive posture right from the start. He moved the food, the livestock, the salt and oil. Can oil make a move? Lighting needs oil, eating needs oil. If he really succeeds, it will produce a kind of effect. That is, the people who originally planted food will no longer plant food and will instead plant rapes. Perhaps he doesn't know what's going to happen next. He's only focused on attacking Jiannan Circuit's current economic system. If he really manages to control the price of oil, the price of food will definitely be affected for a long period of time. How much effort will I have to put in if I want to make a move? There's no need to talk about salt. There can't be too big of a fluctuation in this industry. To be honest, I have never thought of waging an all-out war with 400,000 strings of cash like him. If I wasn't in a hurry to obtain results, I wouldn't have made a move. It's enough to have Xin deal with him. Wang Wan tilted her head and looked at Zhang Xiaobao. She liked Zhang Xiaobao's current appearance the most. His arrogance in the field of economics wasn't the slightest bit inferior to her leading the army. Similarly, with a wave of his hand, tens of thousands of heads would fall to the ground. Most importantly, Zhang Xiaobao clearly had greater abilities, but he didn't display them in order to give the great Tang a chance to advance step by step. Many times it was easy to succeed by stepping on the pain of others, but it wasn't easy to give up for the happiness of others. Xiaobao, sometimes I think that if I wasn't working in the Special Second Bureau and was by your side, swindling people together with you, and then using the money we swindled on the children of our country, wouldn't it be great? The moment you saved that child, the one who made a move wasn't you, but me. That pine hair bomb definitely wouldn't have exploded. It's too easy to deal with an ordinary person. Wang Wan sighed emotionally to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao forcefully shook his head. Don't. If you had made a move at that time, I would have definitely captured him. I don't have much time left. Don't look at how formidable I am. My body is already finished due to the lack of nutrition and survival experience. At that time, there was no other way, not even if I knew the reason. I don't regret it one bit. That idiot really thought that I would give him money. In truth, I couldn't withdraw any money from those banknotes. They were already empty. The happiest thing was that I brought you along. At the very least, I won't be lonely in this life. You're too selfish. I still have family. There are many nights when I dream of them, but I know that they won't show it, because their position doesn't allow it. Sometimes they accept their fate, sometimes they deliberately forget. But who told me to choose that profession? I still have one regret, which is that you didn't say anything. If you wanted to escape, tell me how to do it. I've already arranged for many people to monitor you. Speaking of this topic, Wang Wan was no longer as happy as before. Perhaps heroes also had their own regrets. Although she had no choice but to do so, if she was given another chance to choose, she would still have to do so. Zhang Xiaobao was very unwilling to talk about this matter. In the past, he had mentioned one person, which was Wang Wan's colleague, who had been bribed. But there were many more people. If Wang Wan knew that there were not many people she could trust around her, it would be too cruel. Today, when he heard Wang Wan ask, Zhang Xiaobao hesitated for a moment and said, "Half of your snipers are my people. In positions that you can't imagine, there are also my snipers. They are not your people. Before we came over, do you remember that there was a pregnant woman beside that criminal? She didn't have a child's belly under her clothes, but a large amount of colorless and odorless anesthetic. There was also a silenced pistol and a 50-meter fixed target. She was 100% accurate. I know this, but I didn't arrange it. There was a beggar with a broken leg under her feet. That beggar's leg was broken because he joined the mercenary army and experienced dozens of wars. There was also the child who pulled him away. That child is 40 years old. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I understand. So there are not many people I can trust around me." "Well, I believe that they are definitely not having a good time. Don't you think so?" "My family will help me find out. Those who received benefits from you don't even think about escaping. I sacrifice myself. No matter how strong the other party's backing is, they will have to compromise with my family. After all, I paid the price with my life. Wang Wan finally understood. Her family would be there to avenge her. Everyone who wasn't loyal to her would be finished. Perhaps they would die of illness, or perhaps they would get into an accident after they were removed from their positions. The only thing she didn't expect was that Zhang Xiaobao would do it himself under such circumstances. Could it be that Zhang Xiaobao didn't care about his own life at that time? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had nothing else to talk about. When they talked about the past, Mu Jiji and the others were in a very uncomfortable situation. They wanted to get in touch with the servants of the Zhang family and the Wang family so that they could get more information from the servants of the Zhang family and the Wang family. However, they failed. The servants of the Zhang family and the Wang family always smiled at them, but this kind of smile was of no help to them. No matter what they asked, the servants would smile at them and say that they couldn't tell them and that they should think of a solution by themselves. It seemed to be a very considerate answer, but they didn't feel considerate at all. I really can't think of a good way now. Since I sent you here to cooperate with me, shouldn't you say something? Mu Jiji, who couldn't think of a solution, said to the people who came with him. The 6 of them looked at each other. It was not that they didn't want to say anything, but they really couldn't say anything. They came here in advance to inquire about information, but the information they got was of no use to them at all. Mu Jiji looked at the people he brought with him and said helplessly, "Well, let's not talk about this first. Let's talk about the Zhang family and the Wang family. If we can't find a breakthrough in other aspects, think of a way to break through from the inside of the Zhang family and the Wang family. I don't believe that they are really a piece of iron." The other 6 people still had the same expression. They really didn't know much about the Zhang family and the Wang family. The information they got before was known to everyone. As for the internal information, there was no information at all. Chapter 654. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan deliberately delayed the negotiations for several days. Half a month after the arrival of the Tubo people, a large amount of snow fell. If it weren't for the fact that the roads in Izhou were well built, they would have been sealed off. The Tubo people didn't have it easy either. Only Izhou had a small snowflake. Before the people of Izhou could enjoy it, it turned into a light drizzle. Kumu Jiji didn't stay idle during this period of time. He asked the people to gather information about the Zhang family and Wang family. He also sent gifts to the original 11 local Yamen officials, asking them to help him think of a solution. The people weren't willing to pay attention to the Tubo people. If they weren't here to negotiate, they would probably tear Kumu Jiji and the others apart. After receiving the gifts, they started talking about the Zhang family and Wang family. Everyone said good things and praised the Zhang family and Wang family. Obviously, this kind of praise wasn't what Kumu Jiji wanted to know. He wanted to get information from the local people about the rebellion of the Zhang family and Wang family. When the time came, he would play dirty tricks on Zhang Zhong. The people of the Yamen received even more gifts. Kumu Jiji gave pearls, jade wares, and exquisite gold and silver ornaments. Every time he gave something, the other party would accept it. However, when it came to the work, they were full of helplessness. They talked about how hard they worked and how they were reprimanded. In any case, they didn't succeed and the gifts weren't returned. The moment the heavy snow fell, Kumu Jiji knew he couldn't delay any longer. It wasn't easy for him to dig up grass now. He could only send someone to find Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to discuss the matter of exchanging livestock for food. Zhang Xiaobao also felt that the time was about right. He began to give a normal price, the kind that was relatively low. He lowered the price of all livestock by 50% and only calculated based on the weight of the animals after they were delivered. He didn't calculate by head. He also didn't want the animals that were dead. Who knew if they died of illness? What if people fell ill after eating them? In terms of grain, they still only sold millet, saying that it was good for people to eat it. Those who were in confinement all ate millet and eggs. The price was also very generously reduced to 40 copper coins per bushel. Just as Kumu was about to rejoice, Zhang Xiaobao brought up the matter of the transportation fees. The war had just ended, so it was impossible for the Tubo people to rush in all at once. They needed to hand over the goods at the border of Pingzhou. This section of the road was not easy to travel now. It was snowing, so they would need to increase the transportation fees by 20%, which amounted to 48 copper coins per bushel. This price was already 3 times the normal price, but Mu Jiji reluctantly agreed. He was afraid that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would suddenly go back on their word. He didn't know if the written agreement would be useful or not, so he quickly sent people back to Tufan to collect livestock. After calculating, it would cost a lot of money to transport the livestock over, and it would cost a lot more to transport the grain back. If he really waited for the Tubo people to eat it, the price of a bushel of millet would be estimated to be more than 100 copper coins. However, Mu Jiji wasn't sure if the Tubo people would agree, but a notice had already been posted in Izhou. They would only accept millet and use old grain to exchange for new grain. The exchange rate was 1:2. That was to say, a caddy of old millet could be exchanged for a caddy of more than 3 taels of new grain. Once the notice was posted, the people who heard the news and felt that the transportation fee was worth it thought that Zhang Zhong had gone crazy. If there was new grain, who would want to eat old grain? If other people exchanged grain, they would use it to brew wine. They would use less new grain to exchange for more old grain. However, Zhang Zhong was different. He had transferred to a place closer to Izhou. Even if he added the transportation fee, he would only receive an extra 3 taels of grain, which was exactly the same as the original amount. But Mu Jiji also found out about this matter. He went to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and said that he wanted to exchange for new grain and not old grain. Zhang Xiaobao took out the contract and showed it to him. There was a sentence on the contract: Tubo is willing to use the specific standard of livestock recognized by the Great Tang in exchange for the grain stored by the Great Tang after a certain number of people in and around Izhou of the Great Tang's Jiannan province in the past year. In other words, Zhang Xiaobao had added punctuation marks according to the Great Tang's habits. However, he didn't add any punctuation marks in this sentence because he was afraid that someone would find fault with it. In order to ensure that there would be no mistakes, it was also written at the bottom of the contract that the Great Tang had the final right to interpret the contract. Mu Jiji looked at the line of words and thought for a while. He finally understood what it meant. At the beginning, it meant that there had to be at least enough grain for the Great Tang's people to eat before the rest could be exchanged with him. After all, some people had stored grain at home. When he read the contract, he understood it this way. However, he didn't know that it didn't mean this at all. Wasn't the previous year's grain just old grain? So it turned out that they wanted to exchange this portion for him? Then the price would be even higher. After the people of Tufan got the result of Mu Jiji's negotiation, it was too expensive to exchange grain. However, considering that they only had to compensate 300,000 strings of coins, and they didn't have to worry about Cuckoo attacking them again when she was in Izhou, the price seemed to be lower. Although they didn't pay in the past, they didn't pay even if they couldn't win. This time was different. In the past, there was no one as ruthless as Cuckoo to lead an army. She had to wait until her family left Izhou, and she recovered. She had to survive through this winter. Therefore, she agreed to collect the livestock. The better ones would be kept, and the average ones would be sent to the Great Tang. She also reminded them not to forget to give the livestock more water before the exchange. If they didn't drink, they had to force them to drink. In the exchange of goods between the two countries, some places were far away, and it would take at least a month to complete. This was considered fast. By that time, it would be the new year. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also sincerely wished Mu Jiji well, hoping that the people of Tufan could have a good new year. Suddenly, the people of Tufan could live and work in peace. The two countries could maintain peaceful coexistence, strengthen economic exchanges, and work together to create a harmonious and stable border environment. Mu Gigi finally knew why the people of war were so afraid of Cuckoo. She was too shameless. If you didn't beat me, kill my people, and burn my grain, would I not have any grain to eat? They also had to strengthen economic exchanges. According to this exchange, if there were 2 more times, Tufan wouldn't need anyone to fight. They would be gone. Old Man Pai and the other 2 followed them at the beginning. They were afraid that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo wouldn't know how to negotiate and would be at a disadvantage. Later on, the 3 old men were busy with their own things and didn't care about the 2 at all. They realized that even if they were the ones negotiating with Tufan, they wouldn't be able to reach the level of the 2 children. During the negotiation, they would talk back to each other and then slap the table and glare at each other. They would say that it wasn't easy to gather food, and then say that they would gather enough food and send it over immediately. The words that came out of their mouth didn't sound like what a normal person would say. Normal people wouldn't be able to do this. Don't worry, they were completely relieved. In the future, if there was anything that needed to be negotiated, they would let the 2 children go. Moreover, the 2 children were smart. Before they went to Tufan to fight, they didn't know how to speak the Tufan language. After they came back, they could speak the Tufan language fluently, and could even speak the dialects of different regions. One moment, they would speak the local language, and the next moment, they would speak the Tufan language. Whenever they spoke the Tufan language, they were trying to build feelings. When did feelings appear on the negotiation table? It seems that when I always looked for them and asked them to give something in the past, it wasn't that they couldn't win against me in terms of words. Instead, they gave in to me and followed my words. They are really good children and very considerate. Old Man Pai watched Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's negotiation with others. He finally realized that whenever he said something, the 2 children would immediately follow his words. In the end, they would suffer a small loss. It wasn't that they didn't understand, but that they did it on purpose. Old Man Chong also admitted, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are really good. They are gentle to their own people and cold to outsiders. This time, the imperial court has decreed that they don't want the 300,000 strings of string of cash. It seems that the Zhang family and the Wang family don't want it either. I wonder how they will arrange it. Will they use it to compensate for the old grain with the new grain? Probably, but I can't be sure. We'll know when we see. Old Man Yao couldn't be sure. After all, the Zhang family had too many tricks up their sleeves. No one knew what they wanted to achieve in the end. Li Longji also received detailed information about the war and economic war in the capital. There was also the roasted camel hump personally made by Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan for him and Gao Lisher. Anyway, they were going to the military rest stop, so it didn't matter if they brought some food. They sealed the food to prevent people from poisoning them on the way. The 2 of them stayed in a house built by Li Sun next to Xingqing Palace. They enjoyed the camel hump warmed by the charcoal fire while reading the information. Gao Lisher's wish had finally come true. Xiao Bao was willing to acknowledge him as his godfather. Firstly, it was because there was someone in the imperial court who was easy to talk to. Secondly, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had a very good opinion of Gao Lisher. At the very least, it was better than Li Bai, who had yet to be found. Wang Wan felt that since Li Bai had great ambitions and wanted to participate in politics, he should drink less. If he really needed to manage something, he would be called upon at a critical moment. Who could stand that? Gao Lisher held Zhang Xiaobao's letter and read it over and over again. First, he agreed to it. When they returned to the capital, he would settle everything. Acknowledging someone as his godfather wasn't something that could be done just by saying it. It was quite troublesome. Zhang Xiaobao's ultimate goal was to influence the entire Tang Empire through Gao Lisher. It was too time-consuming to constantly work hard to change the current situation from below. Li Longji looked at the happy Gao Lisher and felt a little envious. He also wanted to acknowledge Xiao Bao or Cuckoo as his godchild or princess, but he knew that he couldn't do that now. After reading the letter a few times, Gao Lisher checked the food box to make sure that no one else had touched it. Then he checked the marks sent by the pigeon and confirmed that it was really made by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. He didn't ask anyone to test the poison and directly opened the box to taste it himself. After waiting for an hour and seeing that nothing was wrong, he said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, you should try it too. It's delicious, better than the food made by the imperial chefs in the palace." Seeing that Gao Lisher wasn't poisoned, Li Longji picked up his chopsticks and picked up some food from the food box. Before putting it into his mouth, he said, "It's naturally delicious for you, Lisher. Even if they send you rocks, you can still crack a little bit. In the future, you can't mix state and family affairs together." After giving Gao Lisher a warning, Li Longji put the food into his mouth and savored it carefully. Then he said to Gao Lisher, when they returned to the capital, "Bring them to the palace to play. There are many ingredients in the imperial kitchen." Gao Lisher, who was eating with Li Longji, immediately understood. He scooped up the food in his bowl and ate it carefully. Then he stopped eating and gave the rest to Li Longji. Chapter 655. Li Longji ate quite well this time. Originally, the amount was enough for 2 people, but he ate all of it. He was so full that he took Dashin pills and chewed them in his mouth. He even looked at the empty food box with a reluctant expression. Gao Lisher only ate and didn't eat. He kept smelling the food and swallowed his saliva. He decided to find some time to go to Savant's restaurant to see if it was similar. That restaurant was also owned by the Zhang family. The palace, maid beside them, brought tea. The 2 of them slowly drank the tea and looked at the information that was sent. From time to time, they would talk about what they would do if they were in the same situation. Someone apologized and spread the news that the emperor ate the food that was sent to Ezhou. In a short time, many people who were paying attention to this matter knew about it. When the ministers heard about it, they didn't have any reaction. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo specially prepared the food that was sent over, so how could they dare to poison it? Besides, the emperor couldn't eat it first. The concubines in the palace didn't feel anything when they heard about it. Wasn't the emperor fine now? However, the people in the imperial kitchen were different. It was their job to make food for the emperor, but now it was taken away by someone else. Immediately, the eunuch in charge of the imperial kitchen came to find him. He didn't dare to enter the hall and just cried silently outside. The main reason was that he was under too much pressure. It was fine if it was someone else who sent the food, but it was only the Zhang family. The Zhang family had a restaurant in the capital. If the emperor was happy and replaced the current imperial kitchen with the Zhang family's, how would he manage it in the future? Could he buy an egg for 5 copper coins? Li Longji and Gao Lisher didn't know that someone was crying in grievance. They were still looking at the information and discussing matters. The people guarding outside saw that someone was crying, but they couldn't report it. The emperor was in a happy mood, and they couldn't afford to be punished if they disturbed his mood. It wasn't a big matter for the country. The little eunuch could only secretly wipe his tears. He wondered what exactly made the emperor eat and whether the imperial kitchen should also make some. "Lisher, what do you think should be done when Zhang Zhong comes back after the new year? We can't just leave Xiao Bao and Cuckoo at home," Li Longji said to Gao Lisher after looking through the documents. "Your Majesty, this subject believes that Zhang Zhong will be going to Luoyang to stay there for at least a year. Otherwise, if he returns to the capital, it will be very easy for him to not be able to handle the various matters. As for Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, they can be placed in Luoyang as minor officials. It would be fine even if they were county magistrates." Gao Lisher considered for a moment before replying. Li Longji nodded in approval of the first arrangement. However, he had his own thoughts about the second arrangement. "Why don't we arrange for you to move to Wanyan County, which is located at the foot of the capital? That way, you can spend more time there. Don't the Zhang family and the Wang family still have 4 children? There's nothing to be afraid of even if there are only 2 of them." This subject feels that we should ask them when we return. Gao Lishir also wanted to arrange for the two children to be by his side, but he was worried that their families wouldn't agree. Li Longji didn't say anything this time. It could be considered that he approved of Gao Lishir's suggestion. At this moment, the sky outside turned dark again. A gust of wind mixed with snowflakes blew in through the open doors of the hall. The snowflakes melted in the air and disappeared without a trace. Li Longji felt the sudden coolness and sized up the house that his nephew had built for him. He sighed. I wonder if there will be heavy snow this year. If it continues for a few days, some places will be affected. If the snow in Izhou is also heavy, they might not be able to set off immediately after the new year. Why don't we let them return now to avoid the snow blocking the road? It's better to ask first. Otherwise, we will have to spend the new year on the road. Gao Lishir was worried that the road would be uncomfortable. The matter that Li Longji and Gao Lishir discussed was quickly sent to Izhou via a military relay station. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan secretly ordered people to work. The two of them didn't want to spend the 300,000 strings of coins they earned on the local people. They already had other ways to take care of the local people. The money had other uses. Xiaobao, when do you think they will find out? I'm afraid that they won't agree. Wang Wan held a snowball and gently rubbed it on her hand as she asked Zhang Xiaobao. I don't believe that they will be so kind as to make a deal. When the time comes, we will be even. It's winter. I hope that the snow will be more uniform this year and not fall in one place. When the time comes, some places will be short of water and some will be affected by disasters. We can't just stand by and watch. We don't have enough manpower, so we have to part with some of them and it will affect the arrangements when we return. Zhang Xiaobao was afraid of the muddy road when the snow melted, especially in this place. When they returned, they couldn't take the Yellow River or the Yangtze River by boat. Then let's go back early. Don't spend the new year here. We still have to make other arrangements. It's okay to spend the new year on the road. We can spend the new year together. Anywhere is fine. Wang Wan always felt that it was a waste of time here. If they really wanted to help the local people, they didn't need to put all of their people in Izhou. They could just arrange a few people in the inner courtyard. After a while, the officials in Jiannan Circuit would no longer listen to their orders. While the two of them were discussing, Gao Lishir's letter came, asking if they were willing to go back early. It was exactly what the two of them wanted. They left the work to others and hurried back to discuss it. No matter where the family would spend the new year, Xiaobao and Cuckoo would be the main focus. This would provide a very good environment for the two of them to develop. When the people in Izhou heard that they were leaving, they didn't want to do anything. Normally, they wouldn't ask Zhang Zhong to do anything for them. As long as Zhang Zhong stayed in Izhou, they would feel relieved. Now that they heard that Zhang Zhong was going to leave after the new year, the clan leaders came over to persuade him. Zhang Zhong had already made his decision. He could only comfort the clan leaders that they could look for him when they had time, or they could find some time to come over themselves. Usually, as long as they had people, they would send news here and bring the local specialties for everyone to taste. When the people saw that they couldn't keep Zhang Zhong, they also knew that he had a better future. They began to prepare things at home so that they could bring along Zhang Zhong. They also sent the young people in their families to follow Zhang Zhong. One of them was to listen to Zhang Zhong's words and assist him, and the other was to have the opportunity to learn more things. However, Mu Jiji was also watching from Izhou. When he heard that the Zhang family and Wang family were going to leave, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he saw how popular Zhang Zhong was with the people, he no longer doubted Demon Fiend Cuckoo's words. With the support of the people, she could definitely form an army in a short time with just a call. Coupled with the financial resources of the two families, they could fight whenever they wanted. Chang, whose two children had just learned how to speak. They also knew how to wash their hands before eating and after playing. This made him hesitate. In the end, he gritted his teeth and allowed Zhang Zhong to bring them along. Lu Zhou was the son that Zhang Zhong had acknowledged, and he usually treated them like his own family. He believed that the two children would not be wronged. When the preparations for leaving were almost done, the livestock from Tubo had also arrived at the pass and were waiting to be handed over. They were even escorted by 5,000 soldiers. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao only brought along a group of commoners who were in charge of transporting grain before they set off. Shui Yin followed them as well. There were no other guards. Mu Jiji looked at them and secretly praised them for their courage. After a few days, the grain that was transported first arrived at the pass. Wang Wan, accompanied by Zhang Xiaobao, rode out and faced the 5,000 soldiers of Tubo head-on. Step by step, the 5,000 soldiers retreated step by step. They did not dare to look directly at Wang Wan. This made the commoners in charge of transporting grain extremely excited. This was how awe-inspiring they were. On the other hand, the commoners in charge of transporting the livestock were speechless. They were a 5,000-strong army, but they were suppressed by the other parties, 2 people and 2 horses. What else could they say? Wang Wan nodded in satisfaction. She said to Mu Jiji, "We can start the exchange now. Weigh them." First, they would weigh the grain. After weighing the grain that arrived first, they would weigh the livestock according to the price. All the livestock that were weighed would be fed medicine by the commoners of Great Tang. When he saw this, Mu Jiji was stunned. After the corresponding livestock was changed, before he could ask, he smelled a foul stench that assailed his nostrils. Whether it was the livestock that were changed or not, most of them had diarrhea. Mu Jiji was shocked. He did not know that the livestock that was to be exchanged had been fed water. No wonder Cuckoo asked people to feed the medicine. It turned out that she already knew. What should he do? Mu Jiji looked at Wang Wan worriedly. Wang Wan returned him a smile. This matter is like this. Our Tubo livestock, it's okay. I can understand. We can understand each other. Get someone to feed the medicine. I brought a lot of medicine this time. Wang Wan still had a smile on her face. Mu Jiji did not know if it was true or not. He looked at Wang Wan carefully and found that she did not seem to be angry. Only then did he wipe the sweat that had just seeped out of his forehead. He also smiled and said, "Yes, we can understand each other. It should be like this. Feed them, immediately feed them." With a command, the Tubo commoners took the medicine from the Great Tang people and began to feed the livestock. When the medicine was being fed, a Tubo commoner opened a bag of rice. After taking a look, he shouted to Mu Jiji, "They mix sand in the rice. This handful of rice, at least 10% of it, is sand." However, Mu Jiji was stunned when he heard that. He turned to look at Wang Wan, wanting an explanation. Wang Wan pointed at the animals that were still being fed medicine and said, "Maybe it's because the Tang Empire's people have been eating rice for too long. I'm going to lose money this time. I used new grains to exchange for it. Sai, let's understand each other. Otherwise, you're 5,000 soldiers. I understand. They kept it for too long. They really kept it for too long. The army is afraid that people will cause trouble. During peacetime, they are not used for war." Mu Jiji understood many things. He knew why Wang Wan did not pursue the matter of the animals being fed water. He also knew why they were willing to increase the price by 10% to exchange the old grain with the new grain. It was too deceptive. How could they pass all the sand out of the rice? Who asked them to feed the animals water? How did Wang Wan and the rest know? If 10% of the rice was mixed with sand, how much water could the animals be fed? If they did not, he could ask for an explanation. Now it looked like they were even, but it was not the case at all. The Tubo people also considered the fact that their side was filled with water, so they could only accept it helplessly. They only hoped that the Tubo people would choose first. Otherwise, when the grains were distributed, they would not be able to eat enough. The animals were forced to drink water and had diarrhea. Some of them died, while others were fine. The dead Wang Wan was also bought, but the price was reduced by half. They only gave some money for the meat. When the living animals were almost treated, all the food was transported over. In the end, in these few days, the animals became even thinner. They did not manage to exchange all the grains that were transported over. When they came over, they weighed the grains, and it was just enough to exchange all the grains prepared by the great Tang. Firstly, the weight of the animals was not enough. There were also some that died. Secondly, the grains from the great Tang increased by 10%. Similarly, the animals also needed 10% more. Mu Jiji looked at the remaining grains, and then looked at Wang Wan. What should he do? I am a good person. Since the grains have been transported over, I can't possibly take them back. It is not easy for the Tubo people. How about this? I see that there are a few hundred horses and weapons in your army. Give them all to me. The rest of the grains will be yours. If you are not willing to exchange, you can also take them away. It is just that there are a lot of grains, but not enough horses. Be careful if you encounter bandits on the road. I can't possibly personally lead the light cavalry to protect you. Wang Wan stood from the Tubo people's point of view and helped to think of a solution. She had a pained expression as she wanted to exchange for the Tubo people's horses and weapons. She did not want the leather armor on her as it was not valuable. However, Mu Jiji did not have the final say. He could only look for the general and ask if he was willing to exchange. He told the general about Wang Wan's threat. The general helplessly nodded his head and agreed. He did not dare to make a move on Wang Wan now. If he could not make Wang Wan stay, then he would have to wait for revenge. The soldiers left their weapons and horses behind and joined the grain transport team. When they walked back, all of them lowered their heads. Wang Wan also commanded the people to walk back to Pengzhou City. All of them puffed out their chests. The officials from Pengzhou also stood on the city walls and watched. They were worried that the Tubo people would capture Cuckoo and Xiaobao. They did not expect that everything would go smoothly and they would be able to return. When they found out that the Tubo people left behind their weapons and horses, the officials were speechless. De Montfiens were indeed de Montfiens. When Wang Wan entered the city, the officials surrounded her. They wanted to take a good look at this little lass. Wang Wan said sadly to the officials, we've lost. We only had 20% of our grain left in exchange for these weapons and horses. Sigh. I was too soft-hearted and was afraid that the Tubo people would not have enough to eat. The officials were stunned for a moment. Finally, someone reacted and advised, that's right. Cuckoo is soft-hearted and is a good person. The Tubo people should be grateful to Cuckoo. The other officials agreed one after another. Zhang Xiaobao saw that Wang Wan still wanted to say something, so he nudged her. All right, let's go back quickly. We're going to leave soon. Don't waste time. What is there to be grateful to you for? Mixing in 10% of the sand? Or using that broken grain to exchange for a lot of ironware and horses? Let's go. The weapons need to be melted into iron ingots first, so that they can be made into farming tools. A knife can be made into 3 or 4 kitchen knives. A dozen arrowheads can be made into a plow knife. Wang Wan thought about it and agreed. They were in a hurry, so she informed the officials and hurried back to Izhou with a large amount of livestock. She left the military horses for Pengzhou. They could form a cavalry camp, but she had no place to bring them with her. After scamming the Tubo people and earning a lot of livestock, she arranged for the people in the inner courtyard to be in charge of the local management. Zhang Xiaobao and the Wang family quickly packed up and embarked on the journey back to the capital. Countless people sent them off. Just the local specialties alone filled up more than 100 carriages. They couldn't refuse even if they wanted to. Before Zhang Xiaobao left, he didn't forget to write a letter to Tubo. He told them to get along peacefully and to try their best not to have bandits intercept his caravan in the desert. Otherwise, Cuckoo would be very sad and angry. Chapter 656. After bidding farewell to the people of Izhou and the nearby residents, the Zhang family and Wang family raised the flag and began to walk along the winding road to the capital. From here to the capital, it was a distance of nearly 2,000 li, enough to take some time. Walking 20 to 30 li a day was considered fast, but when the road was difficult to walk on, they couldn't move even one step for a long time. In addition, there was a large amount of snow this year. Even Izhou and Chengdu had light snow, not to mention other places. 5 days later, when Zhang Zhong saw the team carefully protecting the livestock on the road, he found his son and daughter-in-law and said to them, "Xiao Bao Cuckoo, the road from Jiannan Road to the capital really needs to be repaired." Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan looked at each other blankly, and their expressions changed. The words coming out of Zhang Zhong's mouth were more frightening than asking Zhang Xiaobao to use 50,000 strings of cash to fight an economic war against 400,000 strings of cash, or asking Wang Wan to lead 1,000 people to fight against the Tubo army. Zhang Xiaobao smacked his lips and asked with concern, "Father, are you tired? Why don't we let someone carry you and go to the bend in front? That way, we can speed up a bit." "I'm not tired. Even if I'm tired, it's fine. There are so many people helping each other and resting while walking. But the people are tired. Don't we have explosives and cement at home? We'll use explosives to blow up the mountain and reinforce it with cement. We've already repaired it from Izhou, and it's still being repaired there. It's just right to connect." Zhang Zhong frowned and said with concern for the people. Zhang Xiaobao estimated the cost of repairing the road from Izhou to Chengdu, as well as the main roads around it. It would cost 600,000 strings of cash. How far would that be? Unless it was done blindly, it would be cheap to use a road that would be ruined in 2 years. His father obviously didn't mean to repair the road that only cared about political achievements and didn't care about the people. How much would that cost? If they were to convert all of the assets of the Zhang family and the Wang family into money and ask Li Sun to fork out some money, they would be lucky if they could build a third of the road. Furthermore, it couldn't be too wide, and they would have to take a detour when they encountered mountains. There was also maintenance to be done. One was cold, and the other was hot. There was no such technique to lay a foundation, and the sand and soil layers were easily damaged. If there was a flood, how much money would they have to invest every year? Zhang Xiaobao felt that this mission was too difficult. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. If the heavens were good, he could just make a big hot air balloon and go up. How much would that cost? Seeing that his son was not speaking, Zhang Zhong suggested, "Or you can build a canal. You two have to think of a way." "Father, it's better to repair the road. We have to wait. When we occupy 2 more islands overseas, we should have enough money at home. How can we get other merchants involved? If everyone works together, the road will be repaired, and we can even let the merchants who have to work hard to maintain it." Zhang Xiaobao first drew a big picture for his father and agreed. They would talk about it later. Zhang Zhong thought that with his son and daughter-in-law, it would be easy to build a road. Seeing that his son had agreed, he smiled and nodded. He put his hands behind his back and went to look at other places. Wang Wan nudged Zhang Xiaobao. "Are you really planning to build a road from Xi'an to Chengdu? That depends on whether the benefits from this road are enough. If the benefits are enough, we will build it. If the benefits are not enough, we will delay it." Zhang Xiaobao did not deny or confirm. What benefits can this road bring? Is it just to make transportation between the 2 places more convenient? Wang Wan felt that there was no value in building it. At least, they couldn't build it now. The cost was not proportional to the benefits. If it was only for the convenience of a small number of people, it was better to invest the money elsewhere. If it was because of the military, that was still acceptable. However, this was not her problem, but Li Longji's problem. Zhang Xiaobao looked around. Seeing that Old Man Pai and the other 2 were not around, he whispered to Wang Wan, "This road doesn't bring much benefits, but the Silk Road and the Tea-Horse Path are. When the demand in the country gradually increases and conflicts become more concentrated, it will be impossible not to expand. When the time comes, you can lead the army and conquer all of them. I don't believe that the great Tang, no, the great Qin can't defeat the Abbasid Caliphate. Invasion, annexation, plunder. This is the essence of the existence of animals. If someone criticizes us, we will say that we are promoting integration. No one criticizes us. The people of this era are not as bored as we were back then. Even a pig in a cage would object. Are you saying that you don't intend to invest the money to build the road right away? Wang Wan felt that the people of this era were truly too kind. I'm not going to fix it. I want to make the bustling places even more bustling first. Then I'll drive the surrounding areas to gradually become more prosperous. Chengdu is actually not bad. It's just that the surrounding areas are not good. Doing so will cause many people in remote areas to suffer from a lack of material resources for a certain period of time. But overall, it's more cost-effective than directly investing money in remote areas. Zhang Xiaobao already had a plan in mind. From an individual point of view, every place and every person had to be taken care of. From a general point of view, even if the remote areas suffered losses, they could use the resources of the flourishing places to supplement them. However, if they invested the money that should be used to make the flourishing places more prosperous, before the flourishing places developed to a certain extent, the efficiency of the money would be greatly reduced. This was a very unfair method, but he still had to do it. Wang Wan had no idea what Zhang Xiaobao was thinking about. She considered the matter of the war and said, "It won't be easy. The main problem is the religious and ethnic habits and the adaptability of the army. The sky over there is very blue, but there isn't enough air pressure. If we send the soldiers from the south there, more than half of them won't be able to hold on. If we send the soldiers from the Jiannan circuit, they should be able to hold on a little longer. I'm talking about the people living in the Jiannan highlands. Then, you have to follow up with your plans. I can't just occupy the entire area without anything to provide me with, including resources and culture. If we really conquer it, I won't have to come back. I'll just play around there with nothing to do. Of course, we're not in a hurry yet. No matter what, we'll have to wait for a long time. That's the land route. The main thing is that we should go back and rest. Give me enough time to carry out a large-scale economic plan. It would be great if we had a corresponding team. The ability of the inner court isn't enough, so I'm going to change the rules of the game of Monopoly again. I'll check the 8 generations of the people who are qualified to join the study and research team. These kinds of talents must not be allowed to leave. Let's go. Half of the team has already passed. We'll walk in front and take a look at the local environment. If we can make a small investment, we'll arrange it first. Zhang Xiaobao talked about his plans for the future, then shifted his gaze back to the present. He wanted to give the people living in places with poor lives a chance. He wanted to invest some money and let the locals try to develop on their own. If they couldn't develop, it would be easier for him to adjust and make targeted plans. Zhang Zhong strolled around for a while before he found Old Man Pai and the others. He told them about his idea of building roads, implying that he wanted the imperial court to help. Old Man Pai and the others were shocked. This goal was too big. Although the imperial edict given by the emperor said so, it was fake. Everyone knew that it was fake. The 3 saw Zhang Zhong's determined look, so they could only ask Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. That's right, we're going to build roads. Let's wait for 20 years. When we have enough money, we'll build it again. Otherwise, we'll build a little bit here. When we have enough money, we'll build another section. After a few sections, we'll have to rebuild the previous sections. Zhang Xiaobao gave them a very long time. He didn't want people to keep an eye on the road. When the 3 old men heard that it would take 20 years, there was no need to wait. Perhaps they wouldn't be able to wait that long. They shook their heads regretfully and went back to their own business. The team continued to move forward. The thing that they were worried about finally happened. A heavy snow fell gently. It fell very slowly. There was no wind, and it even gave people a feeling that it was falling vertically. At noon, the sky was as dark as the evening. It was hard to see anything that was slightly further away. It's over. It's finally snowing. How many years has it been since it happened? Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the sky and reached out to catch 2 pieces of snow. It was no longer possible to tell that there were 6 petals. It was like a small pile of cotton quietly melting in his palm. Don't say that it's a once-in-a-blue-moon situation. Who cares how many years it's been? Hurry up and think of a solution. The strong will not find such an excuse to push the responsibility away. Even if it happens once in 10,000 years, it's a success if it can solve the problem. If it can't, it's a failure. Looking at the situation of the snow, it will be warm today and tomorrow. If it continues to snow, it will be warm for 2 more days. But the longer it snows, the worse the road will be. At that time, whether it's warm or cold, it will be difficult to travel. I don't want to analyze the problem. I want the final result. Wang Wan pushed the problem to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao blinked a few times and said, "Why is it my problem? Don't worry. What's a little snow? Our team is strong. Our organization and discipline are strong. We train well and have enough nutrition. Even if it's ice skating and mud, we can still get through. My solution is to unite, help each other, and charge. That's all we can do. I'll go and mobilize the members." Wang Wan agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's plan. She could only brace herself and rely on the overall quality of the team. Who cares about the snow? At this time, the road was wide enough. It was just that this was a low-lying area. Usually, a little rain would flow in this place and soak in it. When it was not snowing, they could hide. But when the snow fell for a long time, it would block the potholes, making it difficult to judge. Fortunately, the snow was heavy and did not melt completely immediately. For the time being, it was not too muddy. Wang Wan's mobilization order was only 1 sentence: charge. Push with your hands and carry with your shoulders. Charge. Zhang family and Wang family did not hesitate at all. They quickly assigned positions and helped the animals pulling the carts move forward with difficulty. After an hour and a half, the sky was no different from the night. The people in the inner courtyard lit the torches prepared in advance. They took off their coats and put them under the wheels of the carts. Then, the team continued to move forward. The people who occasionally passed by on the road were shocked by the scene in front of them. Such a big team, and the road was so difficult to walk on. But there was no chaos at all. Except for the rising and falling sounds of shouting and stepping on the snow, there was no other movement. They moved so fast. Even an army in war could not reach such a level, right? When a gust of wind blew the drooping flag away, the people who saw the pattern on it finally knew what kind of team it was. It was the logistics camp of Izhou. No wonder they were so capable. That was right. Except for the logistics camp of Izhou, they did not believe that other teams could reach such a level. They were indeed worthy of their reputation. All the people who knew which team it were looked at the team in a different light, which made Old Man Pai and the other 2 feel proud. They had to admit that the people of Zhang family and Wang family were really good. They cleaned the snow, dug the soil, and patted the clothes. There was only one word to describe them: tacit understanding. This is the team spirit that Xiaobao and Cuckoo mentioned before. It has its own cultural connotation. If you want to defeat such a team, you have to first attack their culture. Old Man Pai looked at the 2 cooks who were pushing the carts and were in charge of boiling soup to drive away the cold. Old Man Yao and Old Man Chang also nodded in agreement. When they lived together, there was not much difference between the servants of Old Man Yao and Old Man Pai and those of Zhang family and Wang family. Now that there was an emergency, it was immediately obvious. The servants of the 2 old men were already working very hard, but they could not cooperate well. Needless to say, Li Sun's team was a real military team. Li Sun also asked for a training plan from Wang Wan. Usually, they would train together, so their actions were not bad. Old Man Yao looked for a while and said, "After a while, we have to let the people at home practice more. The gap is too big." The snow was still falling, and the team was still moving forward. The people who had been watching for a while suddenly scattered. No one knew where they ran to, but they disappeared in the blink of an eye. When it was really nighttime, when the team stopped to rest and eat, many people appeared from both sides of the road. They wanted to be discovered by the seedling protection team. After stopping and asking, they were all local people. They held tools in their hands and gathered here. After greeting each other, they ran to the front of the team to pave the road. The people in the team were stunned. They did not understand why the people were so kind. Zhang Zhong personally went to the leader to ask. He was an old village chief. The whole village had the same surname, Hao. He was here to pave the road. Old man Hao was simple and honest. He said to Zhang Zhong, "We have heard about what happened to you. We also benefited from exchanging old grain for new grain. There are still 22 animals that you have not collected yet. When the snow stops, you can collect them. It will be more convenient to plow next year." When the army went to Pengzhou, your logistics camp did not let a single soldier freeze or starve on the road from Izhou to Pengzhou. You did not let them suffer any delays on the road. You also helped us defeat Tubo. Today, when you go home, we want to learn from you and pave the road for you. When you set off tomorrow morning, I guarantee that the road ahead of you will be smooth and unimpeded. Hearing the old man's words, Zhang Zhong's eyes reddened. He pursed his lips and nodded. He did not say anything else. He turned back and repeated the old man's words to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Then he lowered his head and ate his meal. At this time, on the road ahead, someone holding a torch ran over. He shouted as he ran, "Village Chief Hao, my village has also started work. 20 miles, we have a good place. Continue to work. Tomorrow morning, we will definitely be able to pave the road." More people are rushing forward. Some people have already run to tell the villages further ahead. When the time comes, let our logistics camp people also walk on a smooth road. I just want to say, don't worry. Let's go. There is still a shortage of people there. I have to run back. After this person finished shouting, he turned around and ran back. Just like when he came, he ran in a hurry. The road was not good, and he staggered after a few steps. Zhang Xiaobao stood up and looked at the busy figures in front of him. He said to the servant girl next to him, "Give me the money box." The servant girl turned around and went to find Jiang Wang clan. After a while, she came back and handed the money box to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao opened the money box and took out 1,000 strings of coins from it. He said, "When it snows heavily, the local people will have a hard time. This snow probably won't stop for a while. If people come to pave the road, their houses will be in danger. Also, their animals will be easily frozen to death. In addition, their tools are already old and many of them will be damaged. It will not be easy for them to work tomorrow in the spring plowing." Speaking of this, Zhang Xiaobao gave the money to his father and said, "Father, give this to each village. 500 strings of coins. Give one to 2 villages. Let them go to Izhou to buy tools and more animals. If they can't spend it all, let them stop their work and compensate them with the rest of the money. Let them use the free time to saw wood, cut stones, build a good stable, raise more animals, and pave the road." Zhang Zhong also felt that the money should be spent. He took the money and went to find old Hao. At this time, Li Sun next to him asked puzzledly, "Since they can pave the road for us today, why didn't they do it before? How do you know they haven't done it before? The terrain here is low. Once the dirt road is built, it will be damaged. How much time will it take to repair the stone road? If they have the time to do some work and earn money to support their families, they will be able to survive. They only lack an opportunity, or in other words, a startup fund. With this money, as long as they are not too stupid, their lives will gradually improve." Zhang Xiaobao understood the inner workings of this kind of poor village very well. As long as others helped them, they could make changes. However, many times, because the contribution was not proportional to the income, or because the return of funds was too long, no one was willing to take out the money. If the villagers hadn't come to help his team pave the road, he wouldn't have taken out the money to help. After all, he had already given some of the animals to this place. The locals also benefited from exchanging old grain for new grain. When Li Sun heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, his eyes lit up. He said, "After we pass by these 2 villages, I will pay for the next 2 villages. As long as they help pave the road, I will give 500 strings of coins per village. How many villages do you think we will meet along the way?" "I didn't see, but there should be a lot on the military map. If we all help pave the road all the way to the capital, I don't think our money will be enough. Villages are not only on the side of the road, but also in depth. For example, the Hao family's village is on the south side of the road. Is there a village further south? Is there a village on the north side? Right now, they are doing this from the bottom of their hearts. They don't expect us to give them anything in return. When we give them money and walk all the way, many people may come from further places for the money. No, I have to tell my father to keep it a secret first. After we leave for 10 days, we will take out the money and use it." Zhang Xiaobao explained a few more words to Li Sun. Suddenly, he realized something and hurried to find his father. Li Sun thought for a moment and said to Wang Wan, "Is it because those who do good will not be rewarded, and those who do evil will not be punished?" "No, absolutely not. Xiaobao is worried that the money given may not be able to achieve good results. First, we will change the economic conditions of the villages that are willing to help us pave the road. This is a pilot project. If it is successful, we will promote it later. If it fails, we will conduct a specific analysis." Wang Wan began to worry about money when she thought of this development model. If she only used her family's money to do this, she wouldn't even have enough money for the pilot project. When Zhang Zhong gave the money to Hao Tsuanjing said that he didn't want it. They came to work voluntarily, not for the money. Hao Tsuanjing said to Zhang Zhong, "You are a good official. Everyone knows that your family led the army to fight for their lives in Izhou and made a lot of money. But your family didn't keep a single penny. They spent all of it on the people around us. You opened a business with your family's money. You don't want to help yourself to get benefits, but we can't pave the road for the sake of benefits." When Zhang Xiaobao came, the two were still trying to persuade each other. In the end, Zhang Xiaobao said that he wanted to use this place as an experiment to see if it could help more villages to live a better life. When the village was rich in the future, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family could come to buy livestock or food. The village would give the same price to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family first. Only then did Hao Tsuanjing accept the money and promise to give half of it to the neighboring villages after 10 days. He also said that if they raised more livestock and poultry in the future, they would cut them down while planting them. If they sawed down a lot of wood, as long as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family came to buy it, they wouldn't sell it to others even if it was cheaper. With the support of money, Old Hao immediately had other thoughts. He called people to come over and asked the villagers to look at the time. If there was enough time, they would pave the road wider. He didn't explain the specific reason now, so as to avoid leaking the fact that he had received money. Old Hao thought clearly. Since he had money to help, he would take advantage of this opportunity to pave the road in one go. It would save him the trouble of doing it a second time. The next morning, when the team set out, there was still snow on the road. It had fallen at night, so the sky hadn't cleared yet. The women who stayed in the village all rushed over with their children and elders. More than a dozen houses had collapsed, so they were waiting for their own laborers to go back and fix it. The cooks of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family prepared more food for the villagers, and then left in a hurry. Once the road was repaired, it was indeed different. The people who swept the snow in front opened the road, so they didn't have to rely on manpower to fill the holes. Their speed also increased, and it only took them 2 hours to reach the road in another village. It was also covered in snow, and the road was also flat. After greeting them, they continued to move forward. Another 2 hours passed, and a road repair team appeared in front of them again. At this time, the road was still a little unfinished. The news came late, and the villagers were still working hard. This is the power of the people's hearts. Just because it's your Zhang family's logistics camp that came over, it made a road that was difficult to walk on smooth. Your Zhang family's flag is very useful. Old Man Pai followed beside Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Yes, we'll leave immediately. My family doesn't want to reach the level of winning the hearts of the people and ruling the world." Zhang Xiaobao curled his lips and replied, Don't leave. The logistics camp was set by the imperial court, not your family. It's a good opportunity to let others see how much glory it is to listen to the imperial court, build a place, and lead troops to victory. That you're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.